What is good, chat? It's Wednesday. I'm back. My voice is partially back. I'm working on that still. But when you can't speak, what you do is you find yourself an all-star panel and you let them do the heavy lifting for you. And so I'm going to bring in first. These are all different guests too than normal. None of the regulars are here. Lady B, unfortunately, may not be with us this week. Hopefully, she can pop in if she wants, but she has some family stuff going on. So I'm going to first bring in Nadia.
Cheers, everybody. Good evening. I'm the wish list panelist, so
The wish list panelist?
yes. Everybody else is top tier, but I am the second.
No, what do you mean?
That's how I'm feeling tonight. But I'm pretty excited tonight to talk about some paranormal stuff.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for coming back, even though this was supposed to be last week and you were kind enough to reschedule, so I'm glad you're here.
I'm just waiting, Dex. As many times I've been on the show for you just to make me a final panel, just like a regular.
Well, do you want to be a final panelist?
Oh shit! I didn't mean to.
Too late. No take backs.
No taking backs. I'm good.
Adega.
Hey,
How's it going?
it's all right. And she's higher up on the rung with me. I'm one of the guys that they pull off together to fill the seats at the game show. You know, it's like, we got an empty seat. Grab anybody. That's me.
All of our self-esteem needs to be boosted.
What's going on today?
I know.
You guys seem fine backstage, and now we come on here, and you're all like depressed.
Trying to embarrass you.
Yes.
Go for it. Do your worst. Here's some of the best. It is Squeaka.
The best
Yes.
of the best.
You stole my joke. I was going to say I'm the Wish participant, like you ordered me off Wish, but I'll just go with the TikTok shopping. That's me. I'm the Temu.
Temu, yes.
There we go. Yeah, I'm like that one you get that it looks good in the picture, and then you're like, oh wait, it's missing like 8 parts and looks like a fox instead of a corgi or some snappy.
I don't know if we have Wish in Canada, so that kind of was lost on me, that whole reference. Now I get what you're saying.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, like Liam Hemsworth is the wish list of the Hemsworth brothers.
Really? There's a third brother, too.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
yeah, but
The short one.
He doesn't do much.
It's more like you expected a Hellraiser box and got a Lego cube. That's kind of
Yeah.
Which is Chinese, so it should be up there in Canada.
All right, and let's not waste any more time here. The great Kamran Pasha has come back to join us tonight. And what timing, Cameron, today?
Well, before I start that, let me just say we short guys rule the world. All people exist to call us sir. Please don't punish us, sir. Please don't fire us, sir. Those phrases are often heard by short people. So yes.
And tall people also make the sports cars for us short people to fit in perfectly.
Yeah.
Yep, true.
The world was built for and by short people, so it's all good. So,
There you
so
go.
thank you. I'm honored to be here, and actually, both of you lovely ladies were the wish list because I demanded that Zach have some beautiful women on the show because
He does.
always Zach's and a bunch of dudes, like
No.
you know, and
Zach
Yeah.
is all the beautiful
no,
women
I'm
you
like,
need.
this is a bore. This is a bore. And so I said I'm boycotting unless there's going to be a more feminine energy to today's show. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's why we have Squeaka.
I was about to say that's what we have Nadia.
I'll just think about it.
Let's say hello to some people. Melvin Deeply, first year car. That's an inside joke about Canada and street hockey. Cajun Corey. What's good, peeps? Hey, Cajun Adega, Nadia Goober. What's up, Goober? Boosh is here.
Ooh.
Boosh. Zach's had never been. Yeah, you know what? It's been a problem lately too. So I might have to do a fundraiser or something like that to get new lungs. I'm not sure.
We need to talk.
We gotta talk. Yes, I need to get your advice. Jana, what's up, boners? We got Mrs. Sassy Sasquatch here.
Oh,
We
Jana
have women
Banana.
in the
Jana
chat.
Banana. With Jana Banana, was that Sasha Grey in your? That kind of looks like Sasha Grey.
That's
Sasha
her.
Grey.
That's
Yeah,
Jana.
that's her.
You look like Sasha Grey, which I don't know if you take that as a compliment. I
That's
think many
my
guys would-
my Persian sister. Yes.
Okay. Oh, you're Persian too. No, oh yeah.
no.
that's right. You can't say
I'm Middle Eastern, but same kind of brown.
Okay.
So close enough.
Okay. All right. Which Middle Eastern? If we can
Jordanian, Palestinian.
Great, wonderful. Then we have a lot to talk about because I've been nearby. I've been to Jerusalem. I've been to Ramallah. We'll talk about all that. So yes.
Oh yeah. Me too. Yeah. Okay.
You've been there too?
Yeah, I was in Jordan for a year.
I'm
And
gonna
then I went to
leave. You guys just
Jerusalem
do
and
this.
all this stuff. Yeah.
You don't need me at all. At
I
all.
mean, a wall. That's the
Jan-
Jerusalem wall. That's all I know.
Jan is
So we'll
awesome.
keep scrolling.
She's
I don't know if
Persian.
Janet is so Janet's Persian. I don't
Yeah.
want to insult you by calling you Iranian. I teased
Iran- she's from Iran. That's her
person
family's from
yesterday.
Iran.
Like I always teach Persian people because LA's filled with them. You know, it's like a Persian central. And I always tease them because I was like, I'm
Jana's
Persian.
the
I'm
best of the best.
all right. So Jana, you know, nobody's called you guide Persian since Alexander the Great, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll go with it. We're gonna go with it.
There's a documentary on Alexander on Netflix now. I'm kind of scared to watch it.
Don't. It's
More? Needs to know? Okay.
Oh, lovely shirt. See, now we're getting all
Yeah.
these beautiful women in the actual like chat. This is good.
That's because you're here, Cameron. So they found you. They found you.
I'm not boycotting now. We're good. We're good.
199. What's up? 199. That's new. Thanks. Thanks for coming over. Good to have you here. Good old Sasquatch.
Oh, don't say
Good
that.
friend.
That's rude. Don't say that. Yeah, but she's still hot. What are you talking about?
Sassy, don't you have sandwiches to make? Wow, that's his wife he's talking to. So, yeah, he's gonna if he gets a beating, he deserves it. But he's also 6'5". So I don't know. Shield Wall's here. Jay Goodwin is here. Flaccid Phoenix is in the chat. Yeah.
Can't get rid of him.
No.
Like a bad cat.
He did
What-
offer to vote me out to paydays and have me leave. So if you get $100 check, I'm pissed out.
You gonna get ejected? You think?
This is not Sassy's stream. We can't pay people to make, Zach's take shots.
This is someone who's here for you, Cameron. I'm not going to pronounce that. I'm not going to try. Do you have any idea?
Oh, yes, that's Simon Fidel. She's a friend of mine. She's a very good friend of mine and fellow Sufi mystic. I had no idea. I have no idea why she's in this chat. How did you even know about this? Magical. Okay.
I'll take it. Yeah, it's serendipity, synergy. For
Are you stalking?
Cajun
Are you
Corey for
stalking?
$5. Thank you for that, Cajun Corey. Thanks for hanging out with us every week. You're a big part of the community here, and I will play you the very short. What clip should you get? Fat Geralt.
Oh, God damn!
I like that one. It's fun. I find it fun.
I just like how he gets out of his chair for it. Like, oh.
Leaves the room. Vigilante Williamson is here. Good to see you. AJ, frequent guest. Circle of Jerks member on Saturday nights. And I think that's everyone. ZBR's here. People still coming in. Jay, and also speaking of people coming in, this is Jay from Diabolical Souls. He's a fellow Winnipegger. What are the odds of that, Cameron?
What's up? What's up?
An actual place? It's like actually a real place. It's like a real place.
I mean, define real.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like this. People in the West think Timbuktu isn't a real place. It's actually a real place. It's like a major important city in Islamic history, like the center of education in all of Islamic history for 1,000 years. And people think of it, it's like the Wizard of Oz. Like Timbuktu, no, it's real. It's like a real place, yeah. But, I don't know about some of these like Winnipeg things. I don't know.
Well, we're not a lost city, but nobody's looking for us either. So,
Yeah.
Gooch, yes, you're here.
See,
Great
just
show earlier
Sasha
today,
Grey.
Gooch. Sorry, what?
No, he just Sasha Gradered, so yeah. We all do sometimes. It just kind of
It's,
happens sometimes, yeah.
Gianna's getting the Sasha Grey treatment tonight. I don't know what that means. Shouldn't have said that probably on stream, but here we are. All right. So Cameron.
Oh, so I'm going to say this for John, my Persian friend, right? So with Sasha Grey. So it's a little tragic. Sasha Grey on her Instagram posted that her grandma died a few days ago. So God bless her. So a lot of people giving condolences. And I posted, a Sufi message saying, I wish her, I pray your grandmother finds the highest, Jannati Firdaus, which is the Sufi term for the highest garden of paradise, right? And a lot of people liked that. I thought that was very nice, the blessing. But then this Persian dude, I could totally tell he's like a Westwood LA Persian dude, right? He just comes in there like, I can't believe people still believe in these fairy tales. And then he starts this thread of people arguing about the existence of God and under poor Sasha Grey's, condolences thing, right? And it was just really out of control. So I wrote this. I said, you know what? You Persian dudes who are kind of uncomfortable with your mystical heritage, are a bore. It's too average. Don't be average. That's like very stereotypical. Don't be a stereotype. You agree, Dana? All right, you agree. Great. Don't be scared.
Yeah. Yes.
Across
Yes.
our entire long and viewing audience. All of Tehran has signed out. All of Westwood has signed out.
We have a diverse panel tonight too. That's pretty great. So, yeah. So Cameron, it's interesting. Early on we talked about this. We talk about this every time you're on the show, but there's always some kind of synchronicity happening all the time. And so this show was supposed to be last week, and I couldn't do it. And thankfully, everyone decided they were okay with putting it off a week because I had no voice at all then. And so, of all things to happen, the day before you're coming back on, Cameron, Gina sues Disney.
Bless you.
And I followed Gina Carano her entire career from as a fighter. Jay, you probably know. You probably did as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, your
she's-
opening credits kind of give us the sense that you have a bit of an interest in her. Yes.
and you are the Disney guy, and I think you said you met her once or saw her once out.
No. I mean, I had this weird thing. She's never confirmed. I had this weird thing because I've had a couple of Instagram exchanges with her. Where we're not friends. I've never physically met her. I mean, she's a nice person, and I would love to be friends with her someday. But we've had a couple of like nice DMs, right, over 2 years, right, maybe 2 or 3. And then one day, as I was like doing a YouTube video like this, because you can see I live out here. You can't see anything because it's just see black, right? But I live out by Palisades Park in Santa Monica. Beaches right out there, parks out there. People are always jogging here. So I'm doing this, and I turn and I look, and I freeze because someone who looks exactly like Gina Carano is like jogging by my window. And that's a very specific looking woman with a very specific build, right?
Mhm.
It's not like your typical like Santa Monica girl in her jogging pants, right? This is not, you don't see a woman like that tall with that build, with that face, just go by your window. And I was like, what? So I sent Gina an Instagram DM saying, did you just walk by my window? And she never responded to that. So she might have been creeped out that like, is this guy following me or something? Respond to that. Like, no, it's just a synchronicity. You walk by my window. I mean, it's obviously you unless you have a doppelganger. But that's one heck of a doppelganger. It's like
You're
Lou
so-
Ferrigno having a doppelganger. That's not common.
You're way more nicer than me. I would have bolted out of the house chasing her down.
Oh hell yeah.
I would have too.
Yeah. Creepy. I was thinking of calling out my window, but that's sleazy and cheesy. Hey, Gina, is that? I mean, that's just rude. So I didn't do it. But now she has this weird DM for me that she's probably like, what is this guy? Is this guy like stalking me? How does he know I'm walking? I was like, no, you just happen to walk by my window in Santa Monica. I don't know. Whatever.
I would get just close enough to get my ass kicked by her. That's what would happen. So yeah, but I would have a story to tell, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So Gina is suing Disney, and then I saw that happening, and then of course on your Patreon. So his link to the Patreon is pinned to the chat.
Yep.
So
join
check it out. Been a member for over a year, and so right away, like you update constantly. So you had the Gina story, but then you also had way more of a story that you've heard could be happening. Would you mind sort of expanding on that for people?
Sure. And so we all look. Let's stay with what's publicly known. What is publicly known is Gina Carano officially sued. Yesterday she put it on her Twitter. There's a major Washington law firm. That's a big shot Washington law firm that does actually like Supreme Court cases. That's taking on her case, right? And yeah, sliding into her DMs. That's why I was like, I don't know if I blew my chances there, developing a friendship with her by that weird DM. Who knows? But whatever. So Gina put this out there, and in her tweet she indicated that Elon Musk appears to be backing her, and that's all in response to back in August, right? That in August, Elon Musk had put out a tweet saying anybody who has been fired because they posted on Twitter, I'm not going to call it X, posted on Twitter, right? Posted on Twitter, please contact my people or me and we'll back your lawsuit. And he just put it out there. And then Gina responded at the time quite famously, does that include me? I think I have a case, right? And so then we didn't hear anything more about that. Right? A lot of people, oh, Gina, you got to do it. And we didn't hear anything, right? Till August. And, and I posted other stuff in those upcoming months prior to this where because I have certain contacts I have with Lucasfilm. Not everyone believes that I do, and it's up to you to believe it or not. I'm just going to present you my story, and you decide whether this guy is credible. I'm just going to tell it to you, and you believe it or not. I just don't care, right? Sure. So my contacts inside of Lucasfilm told me by the end of the year, that Jon Favreau really wanted Gina back, for The Mandalorian, and that he was doing his best to reach out to her people. They told me the extent of those conversations. I don't feel comfortable revealing that. That's a little too private, but they told me the extent of what those conversations were. But the idea was that, that Favreau really wanted her back and was trying everything possible. How can we make this easy for you? And, the ball was in her court. And then suddenly, we see this lawsuit. Now, before I talk about what other sort of unusual things my insiders then revealed to me, because obviously when this came out, I reached out to my contacts and said, what do you know about what's going on? They're like, oh, we got a story to tell you. So I'll tell you that story in a second, right? But just setting that aside, right? What we have is, a situation where this is unusual. For most people, like you look at the people supporting Gina, and I also sent her a supportive message, right? Saying, good for you. I hope you get what you want out of this, right? All of that. Most people are like, yeah, knock them down, take them to the cleaners, right? The reality is Gina didn't do this for the last several years. She could have done this a couple of years ago, right? God bless her. She has some resources. It's not like she couldn't afford a law firm. She can, right? Gina, bless her. She's a successful woman, right? And she has financial resources. So it's not like she needed Elon Musk to support her financially. I don't think she needs that, right? So there's some reason why she chose to do it now. And also it's, if anyone sues a movie studio as an actor, and she's not background. I mean, she was a pretty high up there on the call sheet actress for that show, Mandalorian, right? And she starred in real movies with like Steven Soderbergh directing. I mean, this is a woman that was establishing a very real acting career at a high level, right? Not as like I'm trying to break in as an extra. I mean, she was a real principal player. And so it is unusual for someone of that background, right, to sue, because normally that is the kiss of death in Hollywood. Normally, when you sue a studio, you are forever blacklisted by all the studios, because now you've shown that you're a troublemaker. So nobody ever wants to work with you. So in general, it is very rare for major players to sue. There are a few notable instances that are exceptions. One of them was Peter Jackson sued New Line Cinema after The Lord of the Rings, because he had a profit participation claim on that. And so he claimed he was owed something like $50 or $60 million based on the $1 billion profit, right? And they claimed that their studio accountants said, no, we made no money on this. Lord of the Rings was a loss. I mean, that all studio movies are lost. That's the accountants fudged the numbers to make it that way for tax purposes. Right. And he said, no, I'm not going to accept that. And, being Peter Jackson, they unwisely decided to fight him on this. He said, okay, if you're going to do this, I'll sue you. And he won. And he ended up getting settled out probably $50 to $100 million, right? And that's a rare case. And that's also unwise on the part of New Line, because what normally I'm sure Peter's people did was they reached out and said, can we resolve this? Because this isn't fair, what you're doing. I'm sure those conversations were had, but guess when you're talking about $50 to $100 million, somebody decided, screw them, right? It's too much money. And maybe we can get him to settle out for 10 or something, right? It didn't play out that way. So some idiot decided to fight this and lost. But it's generally not a good idea. And I'll talk at some point today about the other strange exception, which proved not to be the exception, where Scarlett Johansson sued Disney under Bob Chapek a couple of years ago over how Black Widow was distributed, right? But even at the time when that happened, for those who were members of my Patreon want to go back and read the earlier things, I wrote, this is bizarre. Scarlett Johansson doesn't need to sue. This is something that she can make one phone call, or her agent can make one phone call and say, you don't want Scarlett Johansson, A-list star, suing. It looks bad for everybody, right? Let's give her the money. And and that suit went ahead, but was also immediately settled within just 3 or 4 weeks, right? To give her exactly what she wanted. And at the time, I said, this is such a bizarre thing, because stars don't sue. They handle everything behind closed doors. That's how this industry works. So for her to sue, there has to have been a reason. And I theorized at the time that this was actually a fake out, that she sued because Bob Chapek wanted her to. He even asked her to, I opined. I'm just opinion. No one told me this, but I felt it. I said, intuitively felt that, of course, the head of CAA, her agent, one of the most powerful agents in Hollywood, called Bob and said, yeah, man, she feels she's owed another $20 million and she didn't get it in the way you distribute it, right? Normally, okay, let's call accountant, give her a check for $20 million. But I think Bob said, yeah, I will do that. But you know what? Let's do this right now. You know who's a problem for me right now? Is Kevin Feige, because Kevin Feige, the Marvel president, was openly, aggressively, publicly attacking Bob Chapek at the time and saying that I don't like your strategies. I don't like how you're doing, you're putting, because it was during the lockdowns, and, he put out Black Widow simultaneously, I believe, as well as putting in the theaters as well as streaming. Yep. And again, unwisely, You had, Kevin Feige publicly saying in the trades, the boss is wrong. He's screwing my movies. He should be putting them out only in theater and not in streaming. And so this is a problem when you have the president of one of your studio head and one of your underlings, a president of a subdivision, is publicly criticizing you. So you need to get that guy under control. And so I said, what I would do if I were Bob Chapek I would then say, okay, let's give him what he wants. The next movie, Shang-Chi, we're just going to distribute it theatrically. We're not going to do any streaming until the movie's been out, right? Which is what he wanted to do with Black Widow. And we're going to prove that he's wrong. And we're going to prove it in such a way it's going to shut him down. And the way you do it is you let Scarlett Johansson sue with an understanding behind closed doors. This is just a pro forma lawsuit. We all know I'm going to give you the money. Don't worry about that. I just need to teach Kevin a lesson. So, 2 months into this lawsuit, they released Shang-Chi under the pressure of the lawsuit saying, well, we're being sued for doing it this way. You're right, Kevin. We're going to put it out the way you want. And Shang-Chi was released only theatrically, and it did substantially worse than Black Widow, right? It turns out that strategy worked. Black Widow got more money from doing a dual release, right? And had Shang-Chi done that, maybe would have gotten the same. So the day when those numbers came out, I wrote on my Patreon, the strategy has been fulfilled. They're going to settle this immediately because now Kevin Feige looks like a jerk off. He looks like, he got what he wanted, and now it failed. And so I said, they're going to settle this immediately. If you go back and look at my Patreon, I said that. 24 hours later, they settle it, right? And they give her exactly what she asked for, right? And so I was like, oh, that was the game. It was a game. And the only person that came out of it looking stupid, because immediately they put out press releases praising Scarlett Johansson. We love her. We got another movie for her. So this was a game. They weren't angry with Scarlett. They don't want to alienate Scarlett Johansson. And so they gave her the money. And the only person that looked like a jackass was Kevin Feige, who then even made an interview shortly after saying, I kind of underestimated Bob Chapek. And, it was a bizarre thing for him to say, but obviously he realized he had been manipulated, right? And so bringing that back to Gina, again, not talking yet about what was revealed to me, but when Gina sues, it doesn't make sense. There's a reason Gina has not sued for 2 years, right? There's a reason. I'm sure, sadly, she lost her agent and her attorney, so she lost her entire representation. So this horrible thing that was done to her destroyed her physical representation in Hollywood. The only work she could get was with this Daily Wire thing, and I'll be honest with you, she's better than that movie, right? And she's better than the Daily Wire.
Yes.
I have some strong opinions about Ben Shapiro and Daily Wire and its caliber, and she's better than that. Yes. And she deserves to be in mainstream stuff that's universal, right? That's not necessarily political, whatever. So she deserves that. But that's all she was getting. So she could have sued any time during this time because she was damaged. Her career was stopped in Hollywood, but she didn't do it because I would think, and again, forgive me, Gina, if you're watching this, I don't want to speak for you. I'm just talking theoretically, right? I'm just talking theoretically here. If I were in a position similar to yours, I would hesitate to sue because that's going to make the fire worse. It's going to make the fire bigger, and I'll never work in this town. Even if the political climate changes in 2 or 3 years, I'm going to be done because I'll be known as the person that sued a movie studio, and no one's going to trust me after that.
Right.
So I would hesitate. And she did not sue for 2 years, and then she didn't sue in August when Elon Musk offered. In February, suddenly she puts it out 1 day before the earnings call, right? Okay. So that's in and of itself interesting. What's also interesting, again, publicly, what she's asking for in her lawsuit, she's asking for being recast, which kind of suggests, give me my job back, right? Recast me as Cara Dune, or, maybe give me another job. But I think her intention is clear from that lawsuit. She wants to go back to being Cara Dune, which is a role she was good at. The fans loved her. People bought her toys, So everybody wants her back as Cara Dune, except for some political ideologues, right? Who, and so I think she's asked for that. And, and from what I can tell from the lawsuit, she's also being very honorable. She's not asking for 100 million. This
it's a
in
token
America,
amount.
Exactly. In America, everybody asks for, give me $100 million.
Right.
You screwed me forever. She's asking for like $75,000, which is directly like you owed me the unpaid elements from my contract that you didn't pay me. So now think about this. This lawsuit is going to cost more than $75,000 within 2 weeks for both parties. Right. Disney's going to even getting their internal lawyers dealing with it. The Disney's going to be spending a few $100,000 to deal with a $75,000 claim. Right. And so it's just very strange. And so I will, at face value. Now, this is what I will say when I then talk to my insiders within Lucasfilm. They said, and I want to make this clear. They said the information we're about to give you, Gina is not privy to any of this. She is in good faith attempting to get her rights. She wants her
Right.
job back. She wants to be paid back. She wants to close the book on this and to return to Star Wars. And just the returning to Star Wars, people said, well, you know, if they settled it out and give it to her, she'll have lost the principle. No, the principle is she wants her job back. That's the victory. That's the defeat of everyone that took something away from her. Whether they give it to her at the end of a 3-year legal fight or they give it to her, 3 weeks from now as a settlement, she just wants her job back. That's all she's trying to do is to get her life and her career back to normal.
Yeah.
And so she's not involved in any of these machinations that I'm about to describe. All right. So with that, now I'll get into what I was told. And again, you take it at face value. I can't confirm it because I was sitting in these rooms when these conversations happened or are supposed to happen. So I can't say this is my firsthand knowledge. This is secondhand knowledge by people I know inside the company who I trust, who've been pretty good about it, right? And then you can decide whether a guy who's a publicly known screenwriter for 23 years benefits from making up stories like this. Because there are people that claim there are people that won't believe the insights I've been getting from Lucasfilm for their own agendas. They don't like what I'm saying, and they've called me publicly a liar. Believe what you want. If I want to put my face and name out there and my 23-year career as a screenwriter to make stuff up, it's up to you to believe if that's a probable circumstance. Believe what you want. So I'll tell you the story. Okay. And then we'll make me smaller and bring everybody back. So I'll just tell you very quickly.
Yes. Okay.
So and we'll see some of these chats when we come back, right?
Yeah.
So it's what my contact, who I poetically call Sparrow, all right, somebody I've met, I know is a real person. I know who they are within the company, and amazingly, they've survived a lot of efforts to identify who they are because some of the stuff they've revealed has caused problems in times of the company when it gets out, right? And there've been investigations. Thankfully, they've survived them, at least so far. But yeah, so Sparrow told me, all right, so this is what's happening here. The broader game in which Gina is not involved is that there's a strategy happening here with Jon Favreau and Iger and everybody else. Jon Favreau has one agenda. He wants her back. It's as simple as that. He likes her. He didn't want her fired. We know that, we've heard that from a lot of sources that he was upset when she was fired, right? He's never come out against her, and he wants her back. And he created Cara Dune for her. She was at the height of her thing when it was taken away from her, and he lost his Rangers of the New Republic. None of it's benefit John. And now he's at a double whammy because God bless him, Carl Weathers passed away a few days ago. May God grant him eternal life. I mean, so from what my source, who has read at least the early drafts of the Mandalorian movie, now it's being changed because circumstances are forcing the script to be rewritten a bit because Carl Weathers was not a surprise. Carl Weathers, who's important to the Mandalorian show, was important to this movie. And now he's no longer there. And so on a practical level, John is devastated by Weathers' passing. And I got that directly from my sources. Like people inside of Lucasfilm are sobbing. I mean, they're getting grief counselors. This was very hard for them. Carl Weathers was beloved inside of Lucasfilm, and John considered him a personal friend. So he's emotionally devastated. It's only a few days ago. And now he's also practically devastated because he just went to all this drama of getting this movie, the first movie since the stupid Rise of Skywalker movie, to be theatrically released, right? And Weathers is an important part of the movie. He's gone. Right? Grief Karga is gone. So who would be the most obvious person to replace an action hero like him in those scenes? It would be Cara Dune. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's got to be scenes where Mando has to, what Grief Karga was, he's out there gunning down these guys. That's stuff. He's the muscle guy, right? Yep. That's what you're going to see. And who else could play that is Cara, right? She comes in and she could bring her right into the scenes that Carl was supposed to do, and she shoots the bad guys. Great, right? Easy transition. Sold. But he needs to get this through the system where you've got Kathleen Kennedy has intentionally did the one thing that she knew is the red line of Hollywood. She called her an anti-Semite. That's the red line. You can be an anti-Muslim bigot. In fact, there's quite a few of them. I've worked with some of them. That's not a red line. That's a green line. You go be that, right? You can't be an anti-Semite in Hollywood. And so that's a line that's why she hasn't worked in Hollywood, because that's a line that's too far for this industry, right? Similarly, Melissa Barrera has been falsely accused of that because of her opinions about what is happening in this current war in the Middle East, right? Opinions that I largely share. They've been misrepresented. I mean, she's been very clear about her opinions. She wants the killing to end. She doesn't want Israelis to die. She doesn't want Palestinians to die. But, in Hollywood, you're not allowed to say anything sympathetic about Palestinians. I know because I'm pro-Palestinian, and this doesn't help me in Hollywood. It hurts me tremendously, right? But you can't say it publicly. And you can't say, I feel bad for Israelis. I feel bad for Palestinians. You can say only one half of those sentences in the industry. And she went to the other part, and that's too much. So that's the example of the line that can't be crossed here. And Gina was falsely accused of that, same as Melissa was. So how do you bring her back when the industry is now putting literally the scarlet, A on her, right? A,
Right.
A as anti-Semite, right? They put scarlet A on her, right? Scarlet letters on her. How do you bring her back? And how do you do that when Kathleen Kennedy is still technically the president of Lucasfilm? It's interesting. I will just say this. Not everyone believes what I've been claiming, reporting from my contacts inside Lucasfilm, that she's been largely, pushed aside, doesn't even come to the office anymore. I mean, you believe that or not, what's interesting is that in Carl Weathers' passing, the press release that came out for Lucasfilm to honor him was written by Jon Favreau, right? Not by Kathleen Kennedy. So this is a major figure of the Star Wars franchise. You would think that Kathleen Kennedy would have something to say about it. She'd be the name signed at the end of the press release. And, Jon Favreau, who people on YouTube keep claiming is this contractor who's not really involved, is the one Lucasfilm puts out with a statement. Maybe he's a little bit more than a contractor there, right? So whatever. Yeah. But still, she's technically the masthead, the president. So to bring a woman that she fired under this claim back is a problem, because it's a political problem, because then the whole industry will ask, Kathleen Kennedy, can't you stop this? Aren't you the president? Why can't you stop this? Aren't you in charge? So this is the problem, right? Because you can't have people saying she's not in charge. It unravels everything, right? And so this is a conundrum. How do you get out of this conundrum if you're Jon Favreau? If you're Jon Favreau, what you would hope for, what you would maybe even ask for, I'm not saying you did, but what you would hope for, Jon Favreau would really want Gina to sue, because that puts Disney in an impossible situation. Because this, as people point out, this is a very specific amount of money she's asking for. It's not a lot of money, and it's a completely honorable ask. Bring me back to this character that the boss wants back, John wants back, the audience wants back, everybody wants back. Let's close the books on this and move on. On a practical level, to fight Gina for a $75,000 and give her job back claim is bad PR. It's bad economically. It doesn't make any sense, especially now that you've got this proxy wars happening where all these, angry investors are trying to get people onto the board to see what the hell's going on there, right? It's just a horrible moment for Disney to fight this. The practical thing to do is, all right, fine, we'll settle it out. You can have your job back, right? Then you say to Kathleen Kennedy, I'm sorry, this wasn't personal. We're not disrespecting you. This was practical. Right. And even the town would not ask. The town would say, well, Kathleen Kennedy had to agree to this because it's practical, right? And no one's going to say, Kathleen Kennedy has been neutered in power, right? They'll simply say she didn't have any way out of this situation, so she had to bring this woman back, right? And they would accept it. So that's certainly in Jon Favreau's interest. So my sources at Lucasfilm said, well, this is ever since Gina has been indicating she's open to suing, that let's just say Bob Iger's office had gamed this out in exactly the way that I'm strategizing. And Bob Iger's office was like, yeah, I think she should do that. Kind of like Bob Chapek was like, yeah, maybe she should sue us. Maybe Scarlett should sue us. I think that's going to work out well for us, right? I think because it has nothing to do with Scarlett, it has nothing to do with Gina. It has to do with knocking out another problem. Right. So Bob Chapek allowed a lawsuit to come against his company to knock out a troublemaking studio head. Guess what Bob Iger is facing? A troublemaking studio head that he can't control, right? So a lawsuit allows him to quash that, right? So my source said, no, this is an actual active internal conversation plan between high-level people at Disney and Lucasfilm saying, let's let this lawsuit happen. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. They may let it play out for a while. I think the smarter conversation they're having is, okay, let's try to settle this out maybe a month from now, 2 months. It took 2 months to settle out Scarlett Johansson. So maybe it's 2 months till the April 3rd shareholder meeting. So maybe we'll settle out in before April, before that meeting. And also if they're going to do it, if John's wish is going to be fulfilled, they got to settle it out soon, because John has to get, if the movie is going to be in production as it supposedly is by the end of the year, he's got to get the cast locked down in the first quarter. He's got to, right? And so if he wants Gina to be part of this movie, and he's going to rewrite the script to bring her into the movie, they got to get it done, right? So so that's the internal strategy that my people at Lucasfilm said is being discussed at the very top with Iger's office of, let's just sell it out. Let's give it to her. I hope that's how it plays out. Maybe there's other factors we don't know. Maybe something about maybe Kathleen Kennedy pulls out one of her. Remember this videotape I have of you, Bob, at the party in 1986? That's not looking good. Maybe she pulls that card. There may be other things that disrupt this this angle, right? We can't say. Maybe that she doesn't get her job back. People are like, well, Cameron, it didn't happen. I was like, I'm not God. I don't control this. I'm telling you I'm telling you the possible realities that we're facing and the strategy that I'm being told is the internal strategy of Disney and Lucasfilm. And just to let you know, I passed this information along to Gina by a DM. And she didn't respond to it, and I wouldn't expect her to respond to it because it is unwise for her to respond to anything relating to legal matters right now. It would be extremely unwise. Her lawyers would tell her not to respond, and she shouldn't respond to it. Right? She should just keep private. I just passed the information I'm sharing with you to her. This is what I've heard. Just want to give you that information. Do with it what you want. And she shouldn't respond to that. But I wanted her to know that at least I'm hearing this stuff, right? So whatever. And so that's the thing that I've shared with you. It's but what is interesting, the final thing they gave us is a bit of juicy internal gossip. So, and this is what they said that Jon Favreau was overheard by multiple people in the office, I guess yesterday when this lawsuit was announced, that telling the appropriate people who would take care of it, we need to secure Kathleen Kennedy's email records because they may be needed for discovery in Gina's lawsuit. So we need to make sure we have copies of those, and those are locked down so nobody erases anything, right? Her system doesn't go in and get rid of, it's like that, the minutes missing from the Nixon tape. You don't want that kind of stuff, right? And so apparently, but guess what? That works out really well. Because I've been hearing for some time, there's a lot of embarrassing stuff in those emails. And if those emails were ever to get out, Kennedy wouldn't be able to, stand tall and out. And so now Iger has the perfect way, because there was rumors Iger wants to get some of those embarrassing emails out. Sony had that email leak a few years ago. It destroyed Amy Pascal, the head of the studio. She had to resign, right? So email leaks can destroy people at that level of power. And but people are like, well, at the time I was hearing Iger's thinking, do I leak it to the trades? But will the trades run it? She's got allies in the trades. They may not run it. It's the end of the 3 Days of the Condor, where, spoiler alert, Robert Redford sends proof of the CIA conspiracy to the New York Times and tells the CIA guys, you're done. I've sent it to the New York Times. You're going to be exposed. And the final line of the movie is like, what makes you think they're going to print it? That's like in 1970, that's shocking that the New York Times would actually work with the CIA, right? What a shocking idea, right? But the idea is the trades might not print those emails. They might say it's invasive. We don't put it out there, right? And so what do? So if you want to get rid of her the Amy Pascal style, if that's your only angle to get rid of this woman, right? Then you got to find a way to get those emails out in a way that's guaranteed, that you don't have the New York Times squashing it, right? And so the guaranteed way is, well, we had to release them in discovery. Oops. Right. A perfect example right now. And don't attack me, Swifties who are watching. I'm a Swiftie. I love Taylor Swift. Concerts. So some of you may know that, and interesting enough, no mainstream media is reporting this because they've quashed the information. The New York Times ain't reporting this. It is perfectly publicly available. So one of Taylor Swift's early managers, when she was a teenager, 16 years old, trying to break in Nashville, whatever, is having a lawsuit with Swift and her family because he felt he was gypped out of money that was owed from that time, that he helped make her become big and that she never gave him the money he deserved from that. So as part of the lawsuit, he released emails from Taylor Swift's father, which are really, embarrassing emails because Taylor Swift's father is revealing all these personal things about the family and about the family dynamic and all this stuff. And we don't have to go into all this stuff. It's all publicly available. I mean, it's not gossip site. You can go to the court website and download it, right? And interestingly, no newspaper is reporting this because of Swift's power, right? But it's all like, if you want to find out how her family works and what the dad thinks of the mom, and I mean, it's really shocking stuff. But all of that was released, right? It's all publicly available now if you want it. Same thing with Kennedy. If you get into the court, it gets out. There's no way to suppress it. So that's it. So all my people inside Lucasfilm are like, all of this is working out perfectly for Iger's strategy to embarrass and get rid of Kennedy. And he doesn't give a damn about Gina Carano one way or the other. All he knows is he's in trouble. And Favreau is telling him we need Carano back to get you in less trouble because we can put Star Wars back on track. And she's part of it, right? So that's all he's thinking about. He doesn't care about Gina. He has no relationship with her. But if it can help him survive being removed as CEO, that's just one more chess piece to move in his favor. And that's how he's thinking about it. So that's it. I'm done. Minimize me. Bring back all these girls. Bring back the beautiful girls.
I want to quickly say, to add on to that about Gina, a couple things. Yes, like you said, most people don't talk about this, but she does not need the money. Her family owns 11% of Caesars Enterprises. They own 55 casino properties across the country. They're worth over $700 million. Her family. Her dad also won the Super Bowl for the Cowboys. Didn't play in it, but he still won it. It's kind of cool. But like she does. This is not about money. That's why it would be the 7,000. It's about honor. And for her in the past, like she's shown us this, and I'm sure Jay probably knows the story too. But she was supposed to fight Ronda Rousey, and
Yeah.
it was $3 million they were going to pay her to do that fight. And she said to Dana White, "Just don't announce it until I have a camp." And he leaked it anyway. And she's like, "No, forget it. Done. No matter what, I'm done. I won't do it."
Yeah.
And so she did not take that fight, even though it was $3 million. She's like, "No, I asked you to do something one way. You said you do it. You didn't. I'm done." Like, that's integrity to me.
Yeah, it's integrity. Like she said in her lawsuit, they tried to make her meet with various, people to get yelled at inside Lucasfilm. "Oh, you betrayed the LGBT." She's like,
Oh,
I don't
God.
need to do that. I don't need to do that. I don't need a struggle session, right? I know my relationship, with the LGBT community. I mean, everyone who's ever worked with her says she doesn't judge anybody. All she does is a pure professional, treats people well. If you're gay, she doesn't give a crap. If you're straight, she doesn't give a crap. She's very friendly. She's a religious Christian, right? I'm a religious Muslim. She's very friendly to me. She's never in any way disrespected my religion. She doesn't share it, right? But she's
Right.
not that person to disrespect people. But she's also not going to be that person to come in for a struggle session. If she said, bring in, you got 20 Muslims who want to hear you, apologize for being Christian. She ain't going to do that.
No, you're right. 100%. She's a quality human being. It's hard to believe, but someone who's come up through the way she has, and she chose her road with the fighting. She moved to Thailand to train Muay Thai. She slept in the ring. Like, she's done all this stuff on her own that she never had to. She fought Cyborg, which she shouldn't have probably, but nobody else wanted to. She took the fight anyways and ended her career. But she was willing to do those things, even though she was the face of women's MMA at that point. She didn't have to fight Cyborg if she didn't want to. She could have been way bigger than Ronda, but she took the fight. So
I almost think she was bigger than Ronda at one point. Like she was the face. Like she was massive. I have a couple questions in regards to the lawsuit. Like, when it comes to the lawsuit, does she have a leg to stand on? Because like she's under contract, right? Did the contract expire? Was she still under contract? What are exactly the laws in California when it comes to like actors in these kind of situations? I'm kind of curious about that. Like, and not to sound like a Debbie Downer, because I hope she pins him to the wall for this.
But again, it's not about this. She has enough of a case, I think, to survive a summary judgment, which is what matters, right? I mean, so because again, if I don't believe this is going to go on to discovery, because it can't, I think they have to settle it before, right? But let's say it goes on to a full trial where she ends up in court in front of sort of like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. It went to full trial eventually, right? Where but that was several years in the making. So it takes about 3 years or so for something like this to get in front of the court, right? And so during that, the pivotal thing is there's a couple of years of like discovery where you're going through there's been hundreds of emails you got to go through, lots of people you have an interview, and then you a lot of depositions, and then finally you have your full case file of your argument and you present it to the judge, and the other side's going to go for summary judgment, which is saying this shouldn't even go to a jury because obviously there's nothing here, right? But I think she's got enough to survive that to get to a summary judgment, because there's you can make a Title VII claim, you can all these claims about discrimination based on maybe she's a woman, she's this and that, she's a straight woman, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a claim.
Yeah.
All you need to do is survive to get it in front of a jury, which is a several year process. And I think she can do that, right? I don't think this is going to just be dismissed for failure to state a claim that there is no claim. Their claim is discrimination. If you look at the legal documents, you go to the Hollywood Reporter's article, they have a link to the entire legal document. You can read all their legal arguments, right? This is, look, Hollywood has always discriminated against people. I mean, it's always been like that. But it gets away with it with less powerful people. And with more powerful people, it settles it out. So Gina is a more powerful person. That's why the lawsuit itself is unusual, because in reality, you handshake the situation behind closed doors. What happens is your agent calls and says, "Did you discriminate against my client? You don't want me calling my lawyer, do you? No, we don't want that. What does your client want? To go away and be quiet? Okay, you want $500,000, whatever? Okay, go. We want, and then they go away, and then their record is kept clean so that Paramount will hire them next time, right? That's how it's done.
Okay.
This is being done. The very fact of this lawsuit, unless Gina gets her job back, I mean, her career is finished in Hollywood, right? And that's why I don't believe she filed this with the belief that her career is going to be finished, right? She's filed this because I believe that she fundamentally believes she has the ace card against all these people, and that they'll fold. There's a lot of people saying, no, she's going to go all the way to trial. There's no reason for her to go to trial. She wants to be back in Star Wars next week. That's her goal, right? That's the victory. She gets that. She's won. She doesn't have to get a public apology from Kathleen Kennedy. Just walking back into the Lucasfilm office with a script in her hand, she's humiliated all of her adversaries. It's over.
Oh, Gina.
Interesting.
All right. So we brought people in here. Like, I would like to get into this. Yeah, I could talk about Gina for days, but
yeah, we also have some
gotta switch
magical
gears.
stuff to talk about. Yeah,
we do, and we promised.
I want these lovely ladies to talk. I've talked enough.
Me too. Ladies,
I
talk.
have pizza, so give me a minute.
I had really
your-
good pizza today. That's part of my mystical story. I had really good pizza today that led to a strange, bizarre synchronicity afterwards. Okay.
Oh, what's that?
Do you want to hear the mystical
strange
story?
mystical mushrooms on it.
Exactly.
My favorite.
That's what I
all
was
right.
thinking too.
So, all right.
We
So I'm
got
going
some awesome
to
people here,
maybe
too.
ease us in. So maybe
Yeah.
ease us in to mysticism. We'll do a Hollywood / Bollywood / mystical / going into. So a lot of this will seem a little very specific and rarefied, and many of you will be like, "Well, I don't get it," right? Well, hopefully some of you will get it, or at least we'll Google some of the people I mentioned after I talk. So I had lunch today at if any of you are in LA, it's my favorite pizza place, which is the Village Pizzeria in Larchmont, which is the closest to New York pizza you can get in LA, in my opinion. And it's like an hour away from my house, but I go there like as much as I can because I love it. So I had lunch today with a good friend of mine who's visiting from Turkey, of all places, Turkey, right? His name is Murat Evgen. So Murat is a very famous singer, musician in Turkey. He does a lot of composing for TV shows and movies in Turkey and in Europe, right? He does a lot for Netflix. We're good friends. I met him when I first went to Istanbul years ago, and we remained good friends. And so we had a lovely lunch at this pizza place. And afterwards, he wanted, because he's a musician, he's like, hey, I want to go to a guitar center or something. I want to pick up a new guitar. So there was a few nearby, and he wanted to go to one. I said, no, why don't we go to this other one in West Hollywood that's closer, right? So I drove him there. I dropped him off, and I drove home. And then I get home, and I get this text from Ross standing with someone that blew my mind because he just met this person inside the guitar center that I dropped him off a second before. And I don't know if anyone recognizes this name, but when I give you some credits, you will. Does anyone recognize the name A.R. Rahman? Anybody recognize that name? Anybody in the chat recognize the name? Okay. You can look him up. A.R. R-A-H-M-A-N. So A.R. Rahman is the biggest, most famous, most powerful, and most incredible musician in India who's basically the core of the entire Bollywood industry. All the great Bollywood films are scored by him. And also, he's won an Oscar. He scored Slumdog Millionaire, and he won Oscar for Best Music. So if you see, he has a beautiful speech that he gives when he gets on stage. Because like me, guess what? A.R. Rahman is a Sufi mystic. He's actually a convert to Sufi Islam. He became a Sufi mystic, and that Sufis are very into music. And he gave this beautiful speech on the Oscar stage about all his life. He's been presented with two paths, the path of hatred and the path of love. And he's always tried to stay on the path of love. So it's a very memorable Oscar speech he gave for Slumdog Millionaire. So A.R. Rahman, again, this name may have meaning for you. It's hugely meaningful for me because he's an incredible musician from my cultural origin. He's a fellow Sufi mystic like myself. And for my friend Murat, who's a successful guy in Turkey, A.R. Rahman is like, it's like meeting Steven Spielberg if you're a director. If you're like a middling director who's doing okay, and suddenly you walk into a bookstore and there's Steven Spielberg and he starts chatting you up, right, and gives you his number. That's how life-changing this is for my friend, right? Because now, God willing, it's going to open up doors, and maybe he's going to end up making some big music for big Hollywood stuff. Who knows? It's opened a whole door for him, literally, because A.R. Rahman was so pleased because you don't know who he is, and even though he's a very famous guy, nobody knows his face, right? Because he's a composer, so he's behind the scenes, right? So it's not like Leonard Bernstein. Most people don't know what he looked like, right? And so he was shocked that some guy comes up to him in a guitar center in West Hollywood, says, "Oh my God, are you A.R. Rahman?" Because he's not used to that, right? And so he's so delighted, and it turns out this guy's not from LA; he's a visitor from Turkey who's a musician who recognized him. So A.R. Rahman was so pleased by this that he immediately turns, "Oh, what are you here to do?" "Well, I'm here to buy this guitar." So it was like a $3,000 guitar, and A.R. Rahman just buys him the guitar. He just buys him the guitar. Says, "Here's my card." He just went over and bought him the guitar. So obviously they've bonded in those few seconds, right? So that's a strange thing. And then the connection for me is I've been trying to do a movie for years about the great Sufi poet Rumi, which I'm sure some of you have heard of Rumi, right? Very famous poet. And I attempted to, I actually wrote a movie about him, and then various people involved unfortunately blocked it. And my friend told A.R. Rahman a story. A.R. is a follower of this spiritual teacher of Rumi. And he said, oh, well, maybe I can help him get the movie made. And if there's anybody that can help me get this movie made, it's this guy, right? It's this guy that I've always
awesome.
My paths would cross with him somehow. And A.R. Rahman said, oh, yeah, it's Rumi, the spiritual master. He connected us. Obviously, he connected us. He wants me to help you. So that's the bizarro thing that I just came from. That entire conversation happened about 15 minutes before I started this live stream. So we'll see if this leads to, it's certainly changed my friend's life. It's just changed his life in the direction of his career right now. Yes, Rumi. Well, Jana, Rumi wrote in Persian, and he was actually from Afghanistan, and he went to Turkey. So everyone, the Iranians claim Rumi for themselves. The Turks claim them, but he's actually an Afghan. I'm sorry, he's an Afghan. We all
go.
But again, that's the magical thing. And Rumi has this. I've had bizarro synchronicities around Rumi because he's one of the greatest Sufi masters of all time, and he died like 900 years ago, right? Rumi is Persian. We'll see about that, right? but yeah. So, but that's an example of a bizarro mystical coincidence that will change my friend's life and maybe open me up to having this movie I've been trying to make about mysticism for years. Now, we'll see. So that's it. That's our transitional story.
Gary's heading out here quickly, so I put a link in the chat too for him for his Vindicated Ink comic he's working on, and please go check it out, guys. Support independent creators, and Gary's a fantastic dude.
Well, tell him to hit me up, and if he's a comic creator,
yeah, I will. He's a fantastic artist, very talented guy. Yeah, Gary's great. Ask him, he'll tell you.
If he's promoting his book, I'll promote his book.
Yeah, he's an incredible artist. He's a good guy.
He really is. You, Squeaka and Nadia, you guys are killing me with your avatars here, with your Mrs. Cannoli Sasquatch looks you've got. Love it.
Is that Sasha Grey in Squeaka's? We do a Sasha Grey thing tonight. I don't ever because I came over straight from. See, God has a sense of humor. So before I came out of this video tape, Sasha Grey was doing a live YouTube about her learning Spanish. So I was watching that, and then I got a phone call about my mystical Sufi thing, and then I come onto your show. That's why Sasha's in my head.
Hey, you don't have to explain why you're Sasha Grey's in your head. That's all good. Yeah, no explanation required there. But yeah, so getting some of the spooky-ish stuff. We got someone on the panel here. Her name may be Nadia, who
maybe.
She loves the paranormal, supernatural, and I don't know the story that you have yet, but you've had some personal experience with living in a haunted house.
Yeah, I grew up in a haunted house. Yeah. So two big incidents with it. One being middle school. Yeah, middle school. I was in my bedroom at the time, watching on a little tube TV. I hope everybody knows what that is.
Oh yeah.
Complete daylight, window is closed, door is closed, and I had one of those I don't know what they call them. They like fold open closet doors. Like there's like a name for them where they like fold open. Well, this one decided to fold open, fold shut, fold open, fold shut on its own with the light flickering. And after that, I slept on my parents' floor for a very long time.
How old were you? How old were you when this happened?
Middle school, but this is also the room. My parents' house had 3 bedrooms on top, so it was the master, second one, the other 2 like across from each other, and they put me and my one sister in one room, and they put my youngest sister alone in the room I'm talking about at this time, and she didn't sleep at all. She wouldn't sleep. She kept like freaking out at night, so they switched. They gave me the room by myself and put the 2 of them, and I always had a weird feeling in that room where I would just sleep with my blanket over my face. Just a weird feeling at night with it. So that's one incident. My grandmother, and you gotta understand, my grandmother is from the old country, and we're raised Catholic. My family's Catholic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She would literally hear
Here's a shock, people. There are Palestinian Catholics. Does that shock you?
My family is one of the biggest Catholic families in the Middle East. So my grandmother would hear somebody walk through the front door on our wooden like flooring, walk and then walk up the stairs and then go call for my dad, and nobody would be there at all. So
what town was your grandma in? Where was she in? Was she in Syria? Was she in Palestine? Where was she?
My grandmother's from Palestine, the West Bank.
What town?
That's where
okay.
But where we were living?
Yeah, where were you? Well, yeah.
Oh, we were here in the States. We were here in the States.
Okay, so when did your grandma have these experiences? Was it here in the States?
Yeah, in the States, the same house.
Okay.
This is the same house that I grew up on. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of creepy things. I was just actually talking to Vex about it earlier today because I was discussing how when I watched Haunting of Hill House, Mike Flanagan's first series for Netflix, there's the really creepy ghost with the top hat that there's a scene where he's like checking all the doors. It like flooded memories of my sisters and I always being freaked out by the basement. And kids are always scared of the basement growing up, right? And by the way, in the Midwest you have a basement. I don't know about the East Coast. But
because you have hurricanes, you got to hide.
Yeah. Tornadoes. But we always would see a figure in the basement, and it reminded me of that. And I can
did it have a hat? Did it have a hat?
No, but I've seen the Hat Man before. And,
because the Hat Man is like a real thing. It's like I just it's a real phenomenon that's more and more people are admitting to. I woke up and there was this scary guy with a top hat in my room. So yeah.
Yep. I was a young adult in my early 20s when I woke up to the Hat Man. So yeah.
Okay, so you had the Hat Man.
Yeah. That was a freaky situation. I thought I was dreaming and freaking out. But yeah, paranormal stuff kind of follows my family and I. My sister runs a big paranormal like ghost hunting group back in the day in Indiana. We used to go to places in Chicago. Chicago's always has haunted places. Bachelor's Grove, I've been grabbed at, nothing there. And I'm a logic person. If I was looking around like, did I get caught on something? Maybe, nobody behind me, and I got pulled back a couple of steps. So a lot of weird things.
Was there during investigation that happened to you?
We were teenagers. We're just messing around in the Bachelor's Grove graveyard because you can break into it. I'm probably not anymore. Allegedly breaking into it.
Okay.
What is the Hat Man for people who don't know?
It's an entity, I would say, in some way. Some people call it like a sleep demon in some way. A lot of people see him, and sometimes he's an omen that something bad will happen in your life as well. It's a figure that looks like a very tall man that's always wearing a black hat, and it's always like a wide brim hat. Yeah. It's very creepy. Very creepy.
Yeah, and what's happening is people weren't aware of this until it was really just a few years ago. A woman actually did like a YouTube video saying, I had this experience. I woke up as a child. There was a scary guy in a black hat standing over my bed screaming at me. And then, and it haunted me my whole life. I mean, I have difficulty sleeping even now. And when she posted this, like people all over the world started posting, I thought I was crazy. I also saw this dude with a wide brimmed hat in my room. I mean, it's now become, so now there's like scholarly articles written about, is this just an example of a mass psychosis where everyone believes in something sort of like the Slender Man that comes into being because everyone is talking about it. But no, I think there's I've written a movie about sleep paralysis and sleep demons. So in my study of it is that, the sleep paralysis, the sleep hag and that kind of thing, it's been recorded in cultures going back thousands of years. The ancient Greeks wrote about it. They had a name for it, the Ephialtes demon. They had a specific name for it. The Eskimos have a name for it. The Filipinos call it the Angumangia. There's every culture has versions of these sleep demons, and they tend to overlap. And what my opinion is that they're real. And what's happening is that people, the scientific explanation is you're having a hallucination during the phase between awake and sleep, which is hypnagogic, hypnopompic, all that stuff, right?
Hope that's not me.
So that is
that's
the beep. So I'll get beeps. I can't control. I don't know how to shut beeps off.
Yes, but Latino slant is the Hat Man.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's the guy with the black sombrero in the Southwest or whatever. But that's a scientific explanation, which isn't an explanation. That's just a dismissal. That doesn't explain anything, right? You can't falsify that. So that's just you refuse to accept the reality of other dimensions and beings inherent. What it is, in my opinion, is when the mind is between sleep and awake. It's actually in an interdimensional world. We call it the barzakh in the Islamic and Sufi tradition, right? Which is the world in between, the in-between world, right? Of life and death, and that there's entities that live there. Well, and you'll know the phrase Nadia from the Arabic culture.
Yeah, some people think Bigfoot comes from it. Some people think these creatures come from that kind of thing. Yeah. I listened to a very popular podcast called Blurry Creatures, which takes the mythical approach, but from a Christian biblical point of view.
Sure.
How it was removed from the original scriptures of all these type of creatures.
You mean like the Watchers and things like that from the Book of Enoch and those things that were popular books that didn't make it into the final canon? Yeah.
The Nephilims. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And so, so this idea, I mean, these ideas again are ancient. They were ancient in the days of Jesus. They're really old, right? And it's because people keep experiencing these things, and you can, as a materialist, you can dismiss these things as hallucinations until they happen to you, and then you don't know you have no paradigm to process them because they're not hallucinations.
Great. Well, I hope he never comes back to visit me. I've only seen him once, and that was it. I was good.
Yeah, That's good.
Well, they do say if you watch Coyote Ugly backwards, that man will run.
Coyote Ugly. Every stream somehow.
Wait, that summons this? Okay.
No, Jay, he manages to squeeze Coyote Ugly into every stream he's on.
Okay, so that's the thing. It's like, where's Waldo? How's he? We're gonna find it in here.
That's it.
So Dave and Sweet Bam, give us your paranormal perspectives. Come on.
I have a lifetime of them and done a lot of study. I used to write for top fives. I don't know if any of you guys see that, where they get into all the different things. And it was a couple of years ago where they were looking for shorts, so I gave them one of mine. This one's pretty simple, but I do have explanations for it because I'm a lot of people think they're ghosts. A lot of people say they're dismissal, but there are other options as well. Things like time slippage, where you're seeing someone in the past, where you're experiencing something that had already happened, but it isn't you. You're just out of time, catching bits and pieces.
Sure, and that's one explanation for many ghost experiences. Yeah.
So there's multiple explanations for these things, and the one that I wrote for them was basically a lady in white. And I grew up in Southern California. As soon as I turned 19, I was out of there, never went back. But I lived by Seal Beach in Huntington Beach, and at Seal Beach there's a Marine base, and there's a road that goes, so it's a mile long. We used to call it the Miracle Mile, and on either side were these munition silos. There's nothing there. It's a 2-lane road at the time, and they'd have street lights about every 300-400 yards. So at night it would get really dark. Well, a bunch of buddies of mine, we were down at the beach and we were fishing and cooking. You could do that at the time because the fish were still healthy, and so we'd cook them and eat them, and But I left some equipment there, so I went home, I came back, and no one was on the road. And halfway through this, in the darkness, my lights hit a lady standing dead center in the middle of the road with her arms folded, and she was bawling her head off. I had to swerve to miss her. When I came back, she was not there. There was no way she could jump any of the fences. These are military fences. It was just gone. I saw her, had to swerve. There's other people in the car that saw her too, but nothing. So
Can you describe her at all? What color was her clothing? Do you remember that?
White clothing, black hair, very
the white
skin.
clothing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know exactly. Yeah.
Sounds like Bloody Mary that we have in Chicago who does something similar. Yeah.
No, but it was like at first I thought it was someone trying to commit suicide because she was just standing where a car was going to hit her. The speed limit at the time, I don't know what it is now because, like I said, I haven't been back, was 50 miles an hour. So if I had hit her, that would have been it. But there was nobody there.
So that's the lady in white on the road is a very common reported.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why it was in with the top 5 thing. There was a whole list of them.
So I will share with you a lady in white story from Indonesia that a friend of mine shared with me that changed his life, right? Which is similar in some ways to the one you described. So I have a friend of mine, an Indonesian guy, and he had been, he was here in America, and Indonesia is a very Muslim country. It's also a very Sufi country, but he came here and he was studying engineering, and he sort of bought into the entire Western scientific paradigm of materialist worldview. And so he told me this story himself. He said, I went back, after sort of being trained in America and how the world works as a scientist. And he went back to visit relatives in Jakarta, in some outside part of, like, in some island in Indonesia outside of Jakarta, right? Where some uncle and aunt were living, and it's old school, sort of old village by the jungle. And he told me that he went to visit his relatives, and he hadn't seen them in years. They arrived, and they told him, this place is really safe, and the jungle is pretty safe. There's not like tigers or anything. You'll be safe to go out in the jungle. But they said, don't go out in the jungle during sunset time, Maghrib time, the time between sunset and darkness, right? So that hour and a half of twilight, right? Don't go out there, because there's a jinn, which in Arabic means invisible spirit, hidden spirit, a jinn, a genie that dwells in the forest right by the village, and it comes out during the twilight, and you don't want to mess with it, right? It's really dangerous. And he's like, whatever, these people believe this stupid, superstitious, ancient crap, whatever. And so he doesn't believe any of that. And so he told me himself, he says, so one day, it's a beautiful area. He loves to explore. And so one day he was out, and he could hear the prayer call in the distance. The sun had set, right? And, he should be heading back to the village, because he said, don't be out in the jungle after sunset, right? And good night, Cajun. And then, he said, but he's like, stupid people, their stupid beliefs. I'm going to, check out the jungle. I'm going to prove to them they don't know what they're talking about. So he hangs out. He's walking around. His jungle's very lovely in the twilight, whatever. Gets very quiet, all that stuff. And then, but he's there. And then he tells me, like you said, he hears the sound of a woman crying. And he told me, I was like, where's that coming from? And it got louder and louder. And and then he realized it was coming from above him. So he looked up in the tree, and maybe 10 feet above him, in a hefty branch of the tree, was sitting this woman in raggedy white clothing, torn white clothing, just like black hair, long stringy black hair was falling down in front of her face, and her hands were covering. I don't know if that's what you saw. Her hands were covering her face while she was crying. Is that what you saw?
No, she was folding her arms.
Right, but she was crying. So, but what he saw was her hands were covering her face, and she's she's crying like that. He could hear her weeping. Her body was shaking. She's like, "Oh my God, what's happening here?" He thought maybe she's has she been abducted? I mean, what is she doing up in this tree? And so he called out to her. And he said, "Are you okay? Can I help you? Do you need help? Let me come up and get you." He calls out to her, and then he tells me the woman's crying suddenly turns into sinister laughing, right? And then he sees in the fading light, the sun is set in the twilight, he can see clearly, they're not human hands that are covering her face. They're giant bird's claws. They're claws, they're talons. They're talons covering her face.
I hate birds.
And she's laughing at him through the talons, shaking, like a Japanese horror movie, and laughing at him, and her body's shaking. I get chills thinking about it. And he's like, oh my God. He has this complete panic attack because, again, he's a materialist engineer, scientist. He doesn't believe in this stuff. And it's just smacked him in the face. And it's sinisterly, taunting him. So he runs back all the way to the village, and he comes. He's his face is pale as a ghost. Are you okay? His face is, I'm not gonna. Are you okay? What happened? He's like, well, there's this woman, this thing, or whatever. And they're like, well, we told you there's a jinn in the forest, and you shouldn't go. We told you. We've been living here for several hundred years. We all don't go there because we know what happens if you do. Now you believe us.
Right. The Japanese have a version. There's also the harpies. I can't remember the Japanese, but the Nordics have the harpies. That version has been seen a lot in a lot of different places.
Yeah. But this changed my friend's worldview. He went on a spiritual path. He became religious. It changed his worldview because his materialist, atheistic paradigm was shattered. It was broken forever.
I just want to quickly, I want to call this out here. Yeah, I agree. We all miss Gil Cardinalson quite a bit.
God bless him.
Yeah. R.I.P.
God bless him. Yeah.
Okay. Had to highlight that.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt everyone, but Squeaka, do you feel like sharing any of your experiences?
Yeah, if you want me to, I'll share.
I would love you to.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Well, I mean, I've had a lot of creepy stuff happen, and some of it was I don't know, just a process of, spirituality seeking. But the most interesting one was I don't remember this because I was just born, but I'm half a twin, and my brother died during childbirth, and I didn't know
wow.
this, didn't at all. I found this out because I was 5.5, 6, starting grade school, and I was really, really sad and really upset. And my grandmother was like asking me what was going on. Like, I mean, one of those my kid's not being my kid kind of thing.
Sure.
And so I was like, well, my best friend's leaving. And she was like, well, who's your best friend? And I was like, Anthony. And she's like, who? And I said, Anthony's leaving. He says he has to go and I have to go find new friends. And she was freaked out for a while. And that's when she told me the story of the fact that I had a twin brother whose name was Anthony. He was my imaginary friend up until I was 6 years old. Like, legit, like, I mean, we played, like, I remember doing things like playing tag and getting tagged. Like, he was my bestie. And
did you remember seeing him? Do you have any visual memory of him?
not really. I mean, it was kind of odd. It was more like I felt myself, like a piece of myself outside of myself. But there was no real, like, I mean, like, there was some tangibility, but there was not I saw a person. There was just a presence. Like, there's always a presence there, and we would do stuff together, like, and I would feel that presence, but it wasn't like I see this person kind of, like, ghost kind of thing.
Wow. I mean, well, thank you for sharing. That's very emotional. Obviously, losing a sibling and having this kind of connection. It's interesting. I don't know if you know this. Elvis Presley was also a twin whose brother passed away. His elder, the twin, his elder brother was born first and was stillborn, and he was born alive, and it always haunted him. And there's also these sort of stories that he almost like would communicate with his brother, right? And it felt like his brother was guiding his musical career. So there is that bond.
Well, and another weird part was when I got older, and my mother was in labor for a day and a half, because he was stillborn, and then, like I said, I don't remember this, of course.
Yeah.
It's all what my grandmother told me. But labor stopped until my twin was removed. They didn't have an in-house, what is it, morgue at that hospital? Like, what is the morgue at the bottom?
Yeah, the mortuary. I mean, the hospital.
They basically had to take the bodies out. So once he was gone was when labor started again.
Oh. Twins are unique, weird. I have twin sisters, and they just know about, like, if one's hurt, the other one just knows somehow. If one's feeling sad, the other one just randomly, they could be separated, and they just have a sense for each other.
Well, I mean, we weren't identical, so I don't know how much of a bond we would have had, in that sense. But it is, I mean, that I haven't had any, like, there's weird twinges of something's missing, that I've had all my life. And, but other than that, like, it's never reoccurred. It was just stopped at 6.
Wow. I mean, that's really, it's very powerful. Again, whether you were identical or not, obviously one can argue on a quantum physics level, identical, were once like one zygote and then it split, right? As it was one being, right? One can see it that way. But even then, just having the intimacy of growing in a womb with someone, with another being that whole time. And we in our modern culture, we never think of life in the womb, right? That there's a whole period of human development, right? And sometimes that's why, it's like this thing where, my sister would listen to certain music when she was pregnant. And to this day, like her son will dance instantly when that song comes on, like that Beyonce song, because that was the song she would always play him, right? And when he was in the womb, and it imprinted on him, right?
Well, it was funny too, because they never got a good ultrasound. I was always like right behind him. So they thought I was a boy too for the longest time. So I was born and they were like, oh, well, that's not what we expected.
Oh, so
my dad punched the doctor because, I mean, he just lost a son, and then he was like,
you don't know what you're doing. He's like, when are you a baby girl? He's like, yeah.
He was I was born, and the doctor was like, oh, that's unexpected. And so my dad was like, oh, thinking another trauma was about to happen or whatever. So he was uptight and apparently punched the doctor. But yeah, I was.
Well, hopefully after
I
the
was
delivery.
nameless
Hopefully
for
after the
about a
delivery.
month and a half because I was supposed to be a boy and they didn't have a girl's name picked out, so I was nameless.
Wow. I mean,
So they
you
called you
went
Squeaka.
But to address what Shieldwall said, as someone who deals with development of up to 6-year-olds, that is absolutely true, especially neurodivergent ones. But yes, they're very much more open to external stimuli in the first 4 years of development.
I've seen this firsthand. There's a big age difference between me and my sisters. And when my sisters were about 3, their grandmother on their father's side passed away, and they're twins. And one day we were sitting on a couch and I watched these two walk from their bedroom to the front door holding somebody's hand, but not each other's, opening the door. And my mom and I looked at each other like, what are you guys doing? Saying goodbye to Gram. I was like, and I was high school at that time. This is freaking us out. But I totally agree with this. I think you lose a lot of your senses as you grow older. Some of that is just blocked off with, I mean, we have tons of things to worry about as young adults and actual adults too. So.
Absolutely.
I think that's something I'm interested in as well, is that the idea, the universal theory of the paranormal, and one of the aspects of that is that once you learn how to see something or you've seen something, you can then perceive it because it's how our brain translates information. Once you know what you're looking at, like we try to find shapes and we try to quickly do the math to figure out what is that thing? Is it a threat? Is it a friend? Whatever. And so like we start to see things after you start to see things, and you're more open to seeing them because you can recognize that that is something that is actually there. Or it could be through time switches as well, but it could all be from the same thing, and perspective and perception is a big part of it. And it doesn't answer. It doesn't work all the way through as a theory clearly, because this has been going on for, well, since people existed and maybe before that. But it does actually, like, it takes a different look at it, and I do appreciate that as all one phenomena.
Well, I do think it is all one phenomenon, but but just like all human beings are one race, right? We're one species, but our incredible experience of life is so variegated with all these languages and all these cultures, right? And I think the metaphysical world works the same way. There's an underlying. That's why in the Islamic tradition we call the Jinn, which just means the invisible. It just means the invisible, right? And it brings in all, and within the tradition, there's the blue Jinn, the red Jinn, they all different powers, different abilities, different legends, different stories, whatever. And the idea is, and this is actually within the spiritual tradition, the idea is that the Jinn have their own religions. There are Christian Jinn, there are Buddhist Jinn, there are Hindu Jinn, right? And so that's why, like, I'll give you a story. So example, a friend of mine who's a conservative Catholic, right? So Nadia, you'll appreciate this. So he's one of these guys who thinks Vatican II went too far. He's that guy, right? So you get it, right? He's a, old school, like, let's go back to Latin. So he's that guy, right? So, and he works as an exorcist. Like, he's not a priest, but he's like the exorcist, like, assistant guy. He's like the magician's assistant. Like, he's been brought along in a lot of exorcisms to help and facilitate. So he's been within that group. And so again, he's a conservative Catholic. He's of the opinion that his religion is real and nobody else's religion is true. Fair enough. Everyone has the right to that opinion. Most people of religions believe their religion is true. Good for them. So, but he's friendly and he's friendly to me, and so, but he was sharing the story, right? We were sharing the story. Did I lose Nadia? Does Nadia just give up on me? I'm sorry. Bye-bye, Nadia. Okay, so,
no, I'll be right back. Just one second.
You're talking about Catholics, whatever. No, I'm talking respect.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm still here. Just give me a second.
Okay, it's great. So it's respectful. So this is a story he shared with me, again, just like my Indonesian friend whose paradigm was shaken up by paranormal experience. So I had met him on various talks he would give at these ghost hunting like events or whatever, and I liked him, right? Like, he would give these talks with these interesting experiences, but he's very strict about his, like, he was only of the opinion that Catholicism was the only way to defeat these things. Okay, and then one day he had an experience that he shared with him that shook him up. So one day he had an experience where his diocese in Southern California had been contacted by a Muslim family like in Orange County. Like, they were like an Arab family in Orange County, and they had a problem. Their teenage son was now in a mental institution. And he was saying bizarre things. He was no longer able to talk. He was hospitalized, right? And he was violent. And what they discovered in his room was they found an old book, like they had gone back to the homeland, and he had found a book in his grandfather's library and secretly brought it back with him that he shouldn't have. Like, it was a book of ancient magic spells in Arabic, right? And so he had apparently been playing around with these spells. These are like 500-year-old spells. And one of the spells was to summon a Jinn. And apparently that's the last he did. And then he lost his mind and he was bizarre and doing all this crazy stuff. And so they were convinced that he had been possessed by this spirit. So they didn't know what to do, like sitting in, Orange County, right? And they were very sort of modern people. They weren't really into that mystical aspects of their heritage. So they didn't know what to do with this, right? So like everyone goes, well, the movie The Exorcist, well, Catholic priests can solve this, right? So they contact the Catholic diocese and says, we have a problem. We think we have a demon possession, right? And so they send my friend out with their team to investigate. And this is a story he told himself. It shook him up because, again, it made him see the possibilities the world isn't simply black and white, which is, so he went there and they met this kid in this insane asylum, and it immediately started, they could tell this wasn't mental illness. He started talking to them in different languages, right? Like something a 16-year-old kid doesn't know Hungarian, that kind of thing. He starts mocking them in another language and like, saying this stuff. And they're like, all right, well, this is clearly a possession. So they try to do a basic rite. I guess you have to get full permission to do a full exorcism, but they try to do a basic rite to try to expel this thing, right? And he told me that it didn't work. This kid just laughed in his face, right? And he said, well, I don't believe any of that. I'm not Catholic. He literally said that to him. The spirits, I don't believe any of that. That's not going to work on me. Laughed in his face, I'm not Catholic. I don't believe any of that stuff, right? So, but I do know I got to control this kid, right? And so he didn't know what to do because, again, his perspective was this had always worked and it wasn't working now. And so the diocese was a little more flexible than my friend. So the diocese contacted a Muslim imam in Canada that they knew, that was a friend of theirs. Said, can you come out? So they flew him out. They flew him out to Orange County. So the imam came in and said, oh, no, this isn't what you would call a demon. This is a Jinn. And then he started doing the Quranic exorcism using Arabic, and boom, the thing was out. It was out. The kid was back to normal, had no memory of the last 3 months, right? What the fuck just happened to me, right? And the thing was gone. And this shook up my friend because, again, in his paradigm, nothing else should work. And right. I just said, well, I'm not in any way denying. I mean, you've seen the Catholic rite works, but maybe it only works on things within the Catholic part of about the spiritual realm, right? Maybe there are other elements of the spiritual realm that have other rules. Like I've met Chinese Taoists, exorcists, right? Who shared stories with me of doing Taoist exorcism here in the United States, right? Of Taoist Chinese spirits that possessed some people that they knew, and it worked, right? So they didn't use the Islamic exorcism; they didn't use the Catholic exorcism, but it worked. So maybe there is a unified field that is variegated in the way human beings are variegated.
Those damn Catholics.
Yeah, no, I like Catholics.
I'm really interested by this because I'm writing a book, and I have some similarities of how you're describing the diversity of spirits and stuff like that. It's interesting. Yeah.
Jay, do you have any experiences you want to share, or talk about your background if you want, or you don't have to? But...
Well, okay. It was last year. It was on Pete Smetty's channel, and we're talking about paranormal and stuff like that. And I was talking about when I was a kid growing up in the house that we lived in. When I think it was around 12, I went downstairs and I had a bedroom downstairs. I was like, oh, I'm gonna, have my own space. But once in a blue moon, I would go up the stairs and there would be a whisper in my ear, like in my left ear, and it was always my left ear. Going up the stairs, not going down, but always going up, and it would be like Jay, and like in my ear, and I'd be like, and I know there's no one there, like there's no one in the basement, and I know like it's just me, and I'd scoot up the stairs, and I'd be looking down, and I could feel a presence. So this happened quite a few times, and I always felt something in the basement. It was kind of a weird feeling, especially by the furnace. So I'm telling this story. I told you the story. So I'm telling the story on Pete Smetty's channel, and then my mom sits there and go, "Oh, we watched the Pete Smetty's channel," and she's just like, that an Indigenous man died. That's how we bought the house. He died in the driveway. The car collapsed on top of him. He worked on cars. The car collapsed on top of him, and then the house went up for sale. He was by himself, and he was the owner, and and we bought the house, and we didn't know until after we bought the house that he died on the property. I'm like, what? You're telling me this like decades later? Tell me about this. And yeah, I'm just like that. Like that makes my mind race. Like I'm just like is his spirit trapped in that area? Like is that land? Like it was just there's so many questions that came to mind, but it was really eerie. Like hearing that from my mom. Like I'm 50. Like she's like telling me now, and I'm like when I was a teenager, these things were happening, and I was like even mentioning it to where like. Oh, I had it. Like she said, "Why'd you scoot up the stairs so fast?" Oh, I heard her someone yell my name. She's just like she didn't even think of it. But now, like as I explain it, she was just like, "Oh yeah, like there was an indigenous man that died, and that's how we got that house." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's a little creepy."
So, in relationship to that, I'm going to give you a little thing to blow you away. What are the jinn referred to in the Quran? They're called the whisperers, the waswisu. They are called those that whisper into your ears, into your hearts, right? That's their power, is that, and I've heard that once when I was actually studying with this Taoist master I mentioned. I was doing certain Tai Chi special Taoist exercises he was teaching me. And when I was doing that, I suddenly heard a voice whisper in my ear in language I didn't understand. And I was like, well, what the fuck? And I turned to this guy and I was like, did you hear that? He's like, what did you hear? And I said, this was a man's voice was whispering in my ears while I was doing this energy thing you were teaching me, right? And he said, oh, that's very interesting, because you're not supposed to have that experience until 2 more levels of this, right? So you're accelerating. I was like, what do you mean I'm not supposed? That was supposed to happen? Or he's like, yeah, that's coming because this energy stuff is opening you up to the other dimension. I was like, well, maybe let's slow this down a little bit. Let's slow this down, right? And so, but the whispering, that is the actual term. The whisperers is what these spirits are called. So you had an interesting phenomenon there.
Wow.
Oof.
We've had weird experiences in graveyards, not in the kinky variety. Don't go there.
I've seen.
What is this
Portal.
kinky thing? Why are people that I don't
know.
I don't imagine that. I got my stuff. I got my stuff that my mom doesn't need to know about, right? I got stuff, right? But I don't have the graveyard kink. I don't get that one.
No, it was
It's
like
quiet.
That. It was. I was in grade school, about 10. And I was doing a project that we had to do for history. And it was some weird project. We had to go to like research somebody's lifespan as we could. It was like learning how to research. And this was prior to Google and stuff, of course.
Yeah.
So we went to our local cemetery, my best friend and I. And we made it to all of 2 graves. I can't handle graveyards. Not because I'm scared of them, but I feel weird and oppressive and really like I can't breathe. It's almost like an allergic reaction in a way.
Okay.
And so we get to this first one and it's painful in a crushingly painful way. And I'm like, and my back hurts. And I didn't think anything of it at first because I grew up in a crazy environment. So I was used to, being bruised or whatever. And then we get to the second one and I just pass right the heck out. Like I'm done. Like my friend drags me out of the graveyard. I come back and she's like, well, that's weird. She's obviously you can't handle this. And I'll go get some dates for us. And then you just do the research. Cool beans, no problem. So we're doing the research. And as we're doing this, like we're doing things. And again, like I said, it was crazy times growing up. So I had 5 massive bruises on my back, and my friend didn't bat an eyelash. Then we're doing the research, so that's important because the first person died of 5 gunshot wounds, and the second person drowned.
Wow.
Ooh, you have empathy, or yeah.
I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I can't. I mean, it's like stuff seeps out from the ground, and I can't handle graveyards.
Yeah, my sister can't either, so I'm going to give you another inside thing. So my younger sister, she never goes into graveyards. As a kid, she would always like stay away, like she would walk away, and we never kind of knew why. I just thought she was just weirded out by them, right? But then it turns out, and this is going to link to the phenomena you've experienced. So this is a story that happened. So when my sister got married, she and her husband went on like a honeymoon in like the Southwest. They went to Tombstone. That was part of their trip of where they're checking out. They went to Tombstone, Arizona, where the big OK Corral and all that, right? And so they went out to Tombstone, and then this is what my brother-in-law told me, because my sister doesn't remember what happened. She blacked out. So they were like checking out all the old tombstone area, and there's this old graveyard that goes back to the Gunslinger days, where all the old, Doc Holliday and all those characters, right, Wyatt Earp, those people are there, right, and the people they shot and all those are there. And so they went, and this is what my brother-in-law said to me. He said my sister didn't want to go in, but he kind of dragged her in there because he's being jerk and said, "Hey, come on, it's no big deal." And so he dragged her into this place, and then he says, I watched her sister basically go into a trance. She just went into like this weird trance, and she started walking around. And she freaked me out because she would go up to different graves. And these are old like markers from like the 1860s, right? Where a lot of them, you can barely, they're covered with moss or it's faded. You can't really read them unless you try, right? And so she would go up to different graves and say, oh, this one died. This one was hung for horse stealing. She would go up to, this person got shot in a duel, whatever. And then and he would go and he would go and he like push out the mind, look and look, yeah, this person was executed, was hung for horse stealing. Like the information would be on the grave marker when he cleared it, right? And then she went up to this one thing. She said, I don't want to go near there. There was like a mass grave. There was a large grave where there were several markers, right? And she said, I don't want to go near there. It's really scary. I just feel something very cold and evil coming from that grave. And I hear this terrible, like sinister laughing from the grave. She said, I don't want to go neither. And so my brother-in-law goes to the mass grave. There were multiple graves like piled together, and he clears up the marker and he sees it was a grave of 3 brothers that had been hung together for a crime, right? And so all 3 brothers were buried in this mass grave. And she's like, no, there's like this evil energy coming from it. And I can hear them laughing, right? And so she walked out of the graveyard, and then she snapped out of it. She's like, she had no memory of what just happened in the last hour or whatever they were in there, right? And so I told this story to a Sufi master, a Sufi spiritual teacher of mine. He's like, and he got very silent for a while. He said, your sister, you should really get involved in some kind of mystical order because she doesn't understand she has a gift. And this may be a gift that you have as well. It says, because the first stage of sort of the awakening of the spirit consciousness to the higher levels of reality in the Sufi tradition, there's many stages. And the first stage of that is that you start being able to hear the phenomenon of the grave. So he said, and if people don't learn how to treat or learn how to control that ability, it can become very dangerous and could even lead to schizophrenia because their mind can't handle it, right? And so, you seem to have that kind of thing where the grave, you have a power connection where you can see through the veil there. So you're on this spiritual path, whether you know it or not.
It's good to know I have a source for my crazy. That's good.
You're not crazy, Squeaka.
Yeah. So, I mean, like,
we're all
so if I ever talk to you in tongues, y'all know where I've been. Just saying.
You'll throw some holy water on you. You'll be okay.
Exactly. I mean, I used to love holy water. I used to love doing the little, like, where you dip your fingers in and you do the sign and you kneel and you pray and then you go and I used to love the holy water thing. I thought that was, and I would try to just the tiniest bit on my fingers. And I mean, being Catholic was fun until they kicked me out. It was fine.
Why did they kick you out? We don't have to get too personal. Why did they kick you out?
Well, one, because I left, my grandmother kind of stopped going, and they didn't like the fact that I was left-handed, and I was a demon. Well, I mean, maybe it was a different church. Like maybe yours was more accepting than mine, but
that's not more like the average. I can't believe that the priest would say that. Probably the average parishioner had like those prejudices.
But well, this is also Texas. I don't know how uptight.
Oh, my dad would beat the living crap out of somebody that they tried to, out of the teacher when I was left-handed. They tried to teach me the right hand, but I would get punished and put in the corner. And my dad almost like threw this teacher out of the window, said, she's left-handed. She's going to use her left hand. Stop punishing her.
I grew up in a totally different environment. No,
I thought I was the only one banned from churches. That's good to know. That's good.
And then I would ask questions because I like to read and I like to do I like to read a lot when I was little. And so I would read everything like voraciously. And so I would ask questions and I would be like, well, the Bible said this. So why do you have this dead one up there? Like, why is he sad and dead? Why can't you just I would ask weird questions and they'd be like, this is not acceptable for someone your age.
As a spiritual seeker myself, I would suggest that the great holy people of our ancestry, from which religions are founded or named after, were people that asked questions and were willing to question the elders of their time. So I think you're on a good path when you're doing stuff like that. When you're doing it from a place of sincere looking for truth, right? I've met the average jerk off here in LA who's like, the angry atheist guy who's just there to mess with your beliefs, but just there to undermine without anything to replace it with, right? That's not a positive paradigm either. But if you're actually looking for what is truth, right, that's a healthy paradigm.
But no, I mean, I lost faith at 10, and I kind of, the homeboy Jesus and I are on a semi-talking relationship. Like when I talk to him, like this is, I'm not kidding y'all, and I'm sorry if this is sacrilegious, but when I pray, it's like, look, it's your girl Squeaks. You know I don't talk, but my friend over here really needs some help. So can you help brother Al? Like, I mean, that's how I pray. It's like, can we?
That's awesome.
I know we're not talking, but I'm talking for my friend. So yeah, so I mean, I've done a lot of religion searching, and like I've studied a lot of different religions. I'm more of a spiritualist, I guess is what you would say. I don't really have one in particular. It's a matter of, to me, there's some cosmic yumminess out there, I'm sure. And whatever you need to humanize your cosmic yumminess is fine by me.
I want to throw some science in it because it kind of unifies everything. Some of you know that I'm a doctor, and some of you have heard this story before. It's not actually, it's experiments that were done. They're repeatable. You guys have heard of the different experiments where you let rice rot with having a positive word on it or a negative word on it, or monks will meditate and they have crystals form in different ways as opposed to, acid rock or very different things. In that vein, there was a study done in the early 2000s, and again, it's repeatable. And it shows, I'll get to the conclusion of why I'm bringing this up because it will help in some regards. They took two individuals on opposite sides of this was done in the United States, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. They had them in completely isolated rooms where there was no external interference, but they did have sensors to monitor what these bodies were going through, these individuals. One person was given a series of images to look at, and they monitored the body's responses to that. Some were like of flowers, of children playing, war scenes, mutilations, everything that crossed the spectrum to generate various different emotions. On the opposite side of the nation, they had a person who had the same sensors on, no other stimulation. Their only obligation was to think of the person on the opposite side of the country. What they found was that the person who is isolated without seeing pictures would react physiologically identical to the person on the opposite side of the country when they were shown specific images. They would react as if they were seeing horror. They would react if they were seeing beauty. But one thing that they didn't anticipate was that sometimes the reaction was precognitive. In a fraction of a second, they were responding before the other person even had the image shown to them. The conclusion for some people, and of course the science, good science, they're not going to draw a conclusion. They're just going to do repeated tests and take it down whatever way this science leads. But the conclusion overall is that we are all connected. There is no individual when it comes to you've heard of the Akashian record, which basically means all of information is out there. We are living a life that exists in illusion of time. So when you're seeing ghosts, when you're having these feelings, when you're having all this other stuff, you're catching glimpses of the Akashian record in one regard, where you're pulling out and feeling things that may have happened, are happening, actual individuals that may be there, may not be there. But either way, the end conclusion is you felt in the graveyard the negative. The thing is, it's vastly more important to have the positive. You want your life to be positive, feel positive. Work for other people, not for yourself. If you're damaging others, you're doing hard things to other people that hurt their lives, you're damaging yourself, and you're damaging everyone else around you, whether you know it or not. You walk into a room and feel bad things, there's a reason for it. It's not your imagination. It's that sense that they were able to find in these tests that you are innately keen to, some people more than others, everyone has it. We just don't know how to recognize it. And some people, other people recognize it a great deal. So my thing is when you have those ill feelings, do whatever you can, whatever it takes to get the good feelings. And sometimes they may lead you into things that screw up your paradigm. Because when a door opens to show you a greater light and knowledge, happiness, sense of community, uplifting, don't shut it because of your traditions or your beliefs or your precognitions of different, not precognitions, prejudging. There is a way to make the world better, and it starts with you feeling better and treating other people better. So when you get put into those situations again, you'll be able to deal with it a lot easier, recognize it for what it is, and again, make your own community. You'll find that, and this is also proven as well, you'll find that things at work improve, relationships improve. There's a scientific reason for it. It's not just a religious reason for it. It's not just because you're being a good person. It's because you are connected to the other people around you. You're connected to your environment. You're making plants grow better. You're making the air cleaner. And again, it is a scientific fact. It sounds weird, but it's been proven over and over again.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, I do too. And that sounds like something. One of the weird things that my gran was Irish Catholic, but she was also quite a bit on the old world side and a little bit what people would call pagan. So one of the things, because I asked her as I got older, because like I said, life was scary, hellish growing up, but it's weird, and it's still weird now. I can talk about it till the sun comes up, and I've gone to therapy and stuff, and it's a matter of like, I don't process it the same way other people do. It doesn't bother me in a regard that it upsets me or I reflect on it a lot or anything like that. I can just talk about it, and people are like, well, it doesn't seem to bother you. And my gran would say things, I don't remember exactly what she called it, but it was kind of like a lightning rod. And I would talk to her about like stuff that would happen or how bad stuff would happen, but I always still laughed and played and gave and stuff like that. And people are always like, well, how are you so nice when all of this bad stuff happened? And I'm like, I don't know sometimes. I just don't know. But my gran would say that I was a lightning rod for bad stuff, but I would dissipate it. So that kind of, I guess sounds kind of like what you were saying as far as like when you pull all that in, if that makes, I feel like I'm rambling.
Yeah, no, and like I said, everyone has that ability. It's just some people are more attuned to it or not. And the ones who, it could be upbringing, it could be something that happened with your birth, with your brother, it could be all kinds of different things where you hear people that are, the old South used to call them wart healers, where people could touch different parts of the body and miraculously things would heal. Just simple things, we're not talking about, bringing someone back from the dead. That's a whole different field. And that actually, well, I won't get into that. But
I have people that seek me out for hugs. Does that count as?
Yes, it does. Absolutely, it does. But no, these things wouldn't be talked about in all these different texts. They wouldn't be carried on as part of the human condition for, like others have said, for thousands of years, if there wasn't some truth to it. The problem is that our own prejudice and our own imaginations get in the way of experiencing what is really there. So just accept it and help others be better or feel better or live better. That's the real goal.
Do you think that's like a natural balance though? Like with the negative, that there needs to be the positivity?
Yes,
like the yin and the yang.
Yes, yeah. There is opposites in all things. That's why, and I'm not going to get into politics, but that's the easiest way to see things. Not just religions, not just you go into a parent-teacher meeting or all these other things. There are those individuals that dwell in the deconstruction of existence, and they get off on causing it to others. So yeah, that's absolutely a real thing, whether it be on this side of existence or that metaphysical where you go to the graveyard and feel the three people that were hanged. There are opposites in everything. That's why the yin and yang thing exists. There have been people for, again, thousands of years, people have noticed it. The ones who are closer to it or had more experiences with it or had their eyes open for one reason or another, whether they were kicked by a mule, struck by lightning, or had a child experience, it's all the same. And yeah, there is, yeah, we're surrounded by opposites, but I prefer to encourage people because of the things that I've seen, both in my healthcare experiences, helping with thousands of people, as well as in the smaller communities. When you do good, you're not only helping other people, you're helping yourself in all kinds of ways.
Well, to build on what you just said, because you reflected back to what I said earlier, which is that there are some people that just want to deconstruct, right? I mean, they, you're having a good life, you're enjoying your paradigm, it's working for you, whatever that is, whether it's a spiritual belief, religious belief, political belief, you're happy with it, and then somebody has to come around and try to take that away from you, right? And that again, that's coming from a place of like trying to take a toy from a child. This person's happy. What do you feel the need for it, right? And so, but even then, if you use the yin yang symbol that you reference, right? There's such there's profound wisdom in Taoism. There's the reason I'm a Taoist teacher. And in Islam, we actually teach, go to China if you want to find wisdom. And so that's an early Islamic thing, that the Chinese have a special wisdom that we can learn from. And the Taoists and the Sufis have always gotten along. So that within the yin yang symbol, what's interesting about it is it's very intentional. It's not just, a dark half and a light half. Within the dark half, there is this light dot, and within the light half, there's this dark dot, which means that both within what we call darkness or light, the opposite exists, right? There's a hint of that and gives birth to it, right? And so, there's no one that's fully evil. There's no one that's fully good. It's like whenever I talk to, there's no one that's fully materialist paradigm. It's certainly not there. Whenever I share these kinds of stories we're talking about with my quote unquote atheist screenwriter friends, because most writers are atheists for some bizarre reason, right? I mean, even though they experience transcendent when they create art, but whatever, they need to disassociate from it, so they deny it. But they'll all laugh and they'll all say, "There's like, none of this is real. You're just making stuff up. There's no ghosts, whatever. There's no UFOs. There's no this, no that. There's no God." But let me tell you this one wacky story, and then they'll share this bizarre paranormal experience that they had. And then they'll disassociate from it. But I'm sure that was just a crazy coincidence. What I was like, what, you mean that ghost that you saw of the woman in the 1800s dress walking through your house, which is a random thing you're going to try and explain away now? But they feel the need to share it because there's that dot within them of the belief that can't be silenced.
I was able to work with a guy who was, this is years and years ago. And I was working, he helped to find missing children, basically. And his job was, he was a member of the Bear Clan. This was before there was the Bear Clan Patrol, and he's indigenous. And I was helping him find kids that were missing, and it was unbelievable to work. Because at first I rolled my eyes like super hard about this whole thing. Like, right, Bear Clan, you can find people. But like, come on, okay, sure, right.
Yeah,
I'm going to sit somewhere in a parking lot and whatever. No, it was hard for me to like reconcile the fact that this guy, big dude, like 6'4", super quiet, always friendly. He would just tell me to I would drive and he would just tell me, go over here. And then we would drive. This is to the worst parts of the city. And Winnipeg has some pretty nasty places in it. And he would be able to, his ability to find these kids was unbelievable. And now when I say kids, they're teenagers who are runaways, right? But their family won't know where they are. And he could walk into these houses and he wouldn't let me go in with them because he said, it's only dangerous if you come. So all right, so I'll sit in the car. I'll be your driver. But he could go into these places. It didn't matter what gang was involved, how rough the party was. And he just walked in the door, walked through, looking for the person he's looking for. And then he would leave with the kid. And he would pull that off over and over and over again. Like it was nothing. He couldn't explain it. It's just something he could do. And so since then, I've been more open to the idea of I kind of call it being, I think I had mentioned it, you get nudges sometimes. Like you get nudges that makes you go a different direction that day, that makes you take a different turn, that you end up finding something you wouldn't have found, meeting someone you wouldn't have met who then changes the rest of your life or even just a little bit of part of your life. And I think it's something it's important to be open to and to sort of, I want to recognize more when it's happening so that I can fully grow through that. And so I have other stories with that, but that was one of my, I went to tack that on to Dago's because I thought that was very similar in line. And there is a thing about the Bear Clan in where we are and their ability to track down and find people. It's amazing.
I know a little bit of that. I don't know how to, like he goes into a place and can pull people out of a hostile situation just by walking in and out. But I do know the rudimentary elements of it. And there's been a few occasions because my wife liked to show it off. When I was feeling better, I could do it all the time. But we'd go to a strange city. She'd take her friends to a restaurant in the car, and they'd leave me behind and wouldn't tell me where I'm going, wouldn't have phone tracker on. And I said, why are you leaving them there? And they said, just watch. And half an hour later, I'd walk in the door. There you are. It didn't matter where they were. I could probably teach some of it, but you have to be really, it's like you said, when you notice that little feeling, that sense, all you have to do is magnify it by experience. The more you respond to it, the louder it kind of becomes. Because if you can hear the whisper and you're listening to birds, it's just background noise. But if you put the bird in background noise and you start listening to the whisper, it becomes louder and louder till it becomes clear. Well, it's the same thing with feelings, where you feel like you need to turn left, turn right, make this decision, make that decision. When you get used to doing the ones that lead to the better outcome, they become louder and louder to you.
Well,
It's almost like, oh, sorry. Oh, I was just gonna say, it's almost like that water stick. You guys,
the dowsing, the psychic. I was just gonna talk about the
dowsing rods. Yeah, they work.
Yeah.
My worry would be if you're that open and that inviting, you're also inviting something that wants to take advantage of you. So I have a very different viewpoint on people who contact the dead, mediums, and ghosts, mostly because of my upbringing, but because we believe like once you pass, you go somewhere else, right? Whatever you believe, heaven or hell, whatever. So for me, if someone was to say like, hey, I saw a ghost of my parent or something, or I'm hearing this or stuff, to me it says, oh, this potentially could be an evil entity that is trying to get in, to find a way into your life and using your most vulnerable position of, because you as someone who's experienced grief in the last year, I completely can understand somebody wanting to be opening and hearing somebody who might have passed that you love. But I also feel like it opens you up to be vulnerable in that situation.
Yeah,
it could. It absolutely could. The only difference is the impression that you get. Is it an impression of doubt? Is it an impression of fear? Is it an impression of happiness? Is it an impression of love? The positive experience, if it's repeatable, then it's coming from a good source that you could follow. If there is any doubt or any hesitation, question, those type of things, then certainly doubt it, hesitate, move away from it. With experience, the more experience you have, the louder one side or the other will become.
Lady B.
Gabor Mate. I don't know if you know. Oh, I'm sorry, Squeaka. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say Dr. Gabor Mate. He talks about auras. Like he took a group to South America to do ayahuasca, and the tribesmen there were taking the group, and then the shaman said, "You can't do this to Gabor Mate." Or Mate Gabor, I can't remember his name. Gabor Mate, I think it is. And they had to seclude him, and they had to do a different experience. He had to do an experience himself because they said he had negative energy around him, and so he had to be separated from the group because he was going to bring that negative energy while they were doing that ayahuasca experience. And it was like he was talking about that, about experiencing this, and it was just like how spiritual it was and everything, and how they can recognize the auras of people. It was
I think people forget sometimes. I think a lot of the times when you are interested in the paranormal and you're looking for these things, obviously you want to look for the good in things, right? You want to find out what's going on. This is stuff you're interested. But I don't think people actually realize that opening the door, yes, to good things can open the door to let the bad things slip in as well. And especially if you're not ready for it, you'd be more susceptible to them.
I mean, I think it's a very important warning, because what often happens in sort of the new age circles, is that they think everything is all light and fluffy, right? They'll even have people saying that there's no negative spirits. I'm like, no, there really are, right? And there are trickster spirits. There are spirits that take the impression of your grandma, right?
Yep.
And they're doing that to get in your head, and the Sufis talk about this, that, their stages of that. First, they'll entice you in, then it leads to oppression, where there's somebody haunting you all the time, and they're putting ideas and whispering in your mind. And if they really break down your psychological, spiritual defenses, it can lead to possession, right? That's the goal of it, is to get in and to hook you in with this false representation. I mean, I have a broad range of friends in this kind of stuff, and a very good friend of mine is a medium, Cindy Keza. She's often on the Discovery Channel shows that you'll see, and she really, she really is someone who's contacting other spirits, but she's also a Sufi, right? And so she's very aware that some of these entities are not what they appear to be. And so because she has this sort of spiritual insight, she's very careful with what she does, because she understands that, and we've talked about it a lot. She asked me, well, I've experienced this thing that claimed to be the grandma, but I know it's not the grandma. So I was like, well, in the Sufi tradition, it's actually this kind of jinn that it's an imposter jinn that's actually, called a Kareen in the Quran, which is actually something that mimics, right? And so there's, she's like, wow, okay, so I know what that is. I can sense that wasn't the thing that was coming through. But even people who can experience the phenomenon, the wiser ones can recognize that it often isn't what it appears to be.
Just like in regular life, you never know who's deceiving you.
Yeah. I'm in LA. True. The whole city is based on deception.
Listen to your intuition.
So as someone that has gone through the gamut of several different, not just Christian religions, but others, I have gone through training, like Wiccan training. And the difference between a Wiccan and a pagan, for those that are interested, is the fact that there's deity in the Wiccan religion. Like, you actually have a god and goddess, whereas pagan, you don't really. One of the first things they teach you before your dedication ceremonies and things like that is the importance of shielding and grounding and centering, because of the fact that they go into depth about not just the ethics of the practice, but the fact that there are things like Adega touched on, and things like that negative input and that positive output, and you have to make sure that what you're attracting and what you're looking for is the positive, so you can put more positive out, and how to intake the negative and kind of ground it down and kind of release it rather than storing it.
Yeah, and one of the most dangerous kinds of these things is the things that mimic the positive, right? Which is, I think, what Nadia is talking about as well. Things that will attempt to present themselves. And so, actually, one of my close friends, who's also very involved in my Patreon, who has a wonderful channel, Corian Witch in Residence, Michael Winkler. He's a Wiccan priest, right? He's a trained Wiccan priest who's actually been rising within the Wiccan hierarchy in Canada. And so, he and I have a lot of profound spiritual conversations, because he's part of his role as Wiccan priest is he's trained to manage these kind of metaphysical phenomena. And he's experienced a lot of these things, right? And he's also a rational guy, works in computer science. So, a lot of this has to do with, if you don't have proper training, one of the things that we Sufis often say is that it's really important for you to have a heritage from your tradition, like whether you've got it from within the Roman Catholic tradition. There's 2,000 years of a spiritual heritage being passed along, right? And all these things. In Judaism, obviously, you have a long lineage. It's the danger of sort of the self-invented mystics of the modern day who are maybe able to access certain things, but they have no idea the actual phenomenon and whether it's real or it's mimicking something good. And they'll often get themselves and their followers into a lot of trouble, because they have no tradition to analyze it. Everything is a new experience for them. Whereas, like an ancient Taoist, if he experiences a spirit, he'll have reference books going back 800 years that say, oh, that's not what it appears. I know this Grand Master from 12th century China experienced this thing and knows what it is, and it's not what it's presenting itself. If you don't have that heritage, you start all over and make the same mistakes the ancestors did to get to where you are now.
We have a lot of shout outs in the chat for Irene.
Is she live? Is she alive?
We don't know. We
You
don't
know?
know.
I thought I saw her in the chat too.
Yeah, I think that was a fake Irene. So I think that we're seeing what you want to see, but it might not be what's actually there. So
Well, I just checked on my other window. Sasha Grey is still streaming 3 hours into it. So he's still doing the thing.
I had another interesting experience. I would say it's an interesting experience when I was in Portugal. I was in Lisbon. First day there, and my wife and I just wandered around and looked into these different churches and cathedrals because there's a ton of them there and they're open all the time. And so I went to this one here. It's the it's São Domingo Church. It's Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese, but we went in there and it was the weirdest feeling. It was very dark, very almost oppressive feeling, and also physically dark. Like it was dimly lit, and there was almost no sound carrying. It was incredibly quiet for a building that looked like that. You know, the big open ceilings and everything. And I took pictures, and when I saw the pictures I took after my phone, it was really, I could see there was lights that were streaming in them. A couple more on my wife was kind of coming in through the side and like lighting her up, and I didn't see those lights when I was there in person, but they showed up on the camera, and I don't know why I didn't know why I was feeling that way, and then I looked into it a little bit more after, and this was the site of a massacre, the Lisbon massacre, the 1506 massacre of the new Christians who were forcibly converted Jews.
The conversos,
yeah. And so I think 4,000 people were killed, and it was the people who were working in the church were complicit and aided in it. And then they were then
the energy is still there. So the energy is still there.
And then I think it was King Alphonse the First came through after, and he executed all of the people involved in the church. So they all died too. So everyone on both sides were all massacred. And so it's a super dark place, but I had no idea until I looked into it after, and you can see the star there, and it marks the spot. And I had never heard of that. I had no reason to think that. It was just a very strange sight, but it's so unbelievably dark.
Well, because there's layers to it. Because look, this is supposed to be a sacred place, right? And then you've got murder at a sacred place, and you've got oppression at a sacred place. It taints it because now you've got a conflicting energy there, right? It's supposed to be a place that connects you to the divine. That's what is intended to be, and yet it is placed with this terrible thing. And so that poisons sort of the beautiful stream that should be there. Sad.
Yeah, and you get a lot of experiences there into those old buildings, those old spaces that people have built, and some of them are like you feel amazing going inside of them. And this one was something different. So thought I would share that.
Hold on one second, guys. This is A.R. Rahman. Let me go take this call. Hold on. All right, I gotta go do this.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that, Zax. When I was in Europe for my wedding and stuff, we went to a bunch of churches around Rome and stuff because we got married by the Vatican, and some of the places almost felt at peace, and then some of the places you just get like almost an ick feeling going into it. You're just tense the whole time.
Yeah, I was like that too when I went to England. Yeah, yeah.
And when I was in Jordan and we went to Jerusalem and we went and did the 14 stages of Christ, and I went to go touch his tomb too. I was a teenager at the time, so it was really cool kind of walking through this stuff. Not very emotional, but as soon as I touched the rock of where he was crucified, because they have a church built around it, I just for some reason just started bawling my eyes out. Just the energy around there just made me want to cry. I think I cried the whole way back too when we were on our way out as well. So I wholeheartedly believe that certain places just capture energy that affect over time as people have gathered there too, because you also have the generations of energy of those who visit that places too, and what they're going through and their emotions as well.
Yeah, I felt like that when I was in New York when I went to the Twin Towers.
Yep.
Where they have
me
like
too.
it was just like it felt very cold. It felt like it was just like, I mean, it's so fresh too, right? So Yeah, I don't think I've ever really experienced going into, besides the Twin Towers and actually the Dakota Estates where John Lennon died. I felt something there too. It was kind of weird, but like other than that, I haven't really felt anything. I mean, it's that those are only places I could think of. Though I haven't really traveled like around the world that much. So, to be fair.
Another weird spot to travel is throughout the South at the site of different Civil War battles.
Oh,
Like
yes.
for me, like I was going with a friend of mine through like the Great Smoky Mountains and like doing some stuff, and I would know when we were getting close to one, and he was like, "I don't even need a map at this point. I'm just gonna make you tell me when we're next to it," because it's just so oppressive. It was this feeling of like I mean, it's not just sad. I mean, because there's like weird feelings of victory and like you know what I mean. Like it's just this miasma of just different emotions, but mostly too that feeling of there's a lot of blood on this ground. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And that's part of that connected stuff that I had mentioned too.
Fun fact, Squeaka, I used to do Civil War reenactments when I was younger.
What?
Yes.
What?
So camp out and all.
Which
so,
side?
Yes.
Which side were you on?
Both, because at the time I was dating twins, and one was for the North and one was for the South. I know.
Stop.
I'm not bullshitting.
Stop.
I swear.
Nadia.
Wow.
I swear.
Nadia.
Oh,
No,
get it,
I
Florence
would-
Nightingale.
Switch
Oh,
around
hoo-hoo.
depending on how I was feeling. So
This has to be a different stream.
Wow. And the
No.
words of Vex
I
Electronica,
swear.
you dirty birdie.
I not at the same time. Not at the same time. Just FYI.
Yeah, so Auschwitz, I would assume, would be similar. And there's a difference when you go to a place expecting to feel something and when you don't and you get surprised by it. Like I want to see architecture. I didn't expect to feel things, you know, but you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Even just museum exhibits. We had pieces of like from the Holocaust Museum come to a museum down here, and like I couldn't even walk through the door. I lost it because I walked past it, and there's this like exhibit and it's just shoes,
Oh, yeah.
and
Ooh,
I was
yeah.
like, I can't. And I'm a crier. I mean I cry all the time. So I mean I started crying and I was like, I just can't. So I can't even handle museum exhibits. And I touch everything too. I'm a toucher. Touch all the trees and the architecture. Like if we go if I can, I don't like just randomly cross museum lines and touch things.
I'm with you. When I was in LA, they had an exhibit for Pompeii and they had the form of the mother it's a really famous one where they've dug it up, and I was very overwhelmed with that exhibit. I was like, I have to jet. I'll meet you guys outside. There's just too much going on for now.
Speaking of too much going on, so what was your favorite twin?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Probably the South. I'm not gonna lie. Probably the South.
I'd
Probably the
Likes
South.
going
Yeah.
south, yeah.
Dirty South. Yeah.
They were identical twins too. Identical.
Wow.
Yeah.
After thorough investigation, she knows they were
Don't
identical.
hate the
So
player.
much respect for
hate the
Nadia.
game.
So much respect for Nadia.
That's amazing.
I'm
Nadia's
married
gone
now.
up here on my
Happily
list of
married.
people that.
Happily married to one.
Oh yeah,
country
but the
Indiana
respect
boy.
is still there. The respect is still there.
Have you ever you've done ceremonies, right? Gooch?
Yes, I've done a lot of sweats. I've done a lot of I've been to a lot of powwows and stuff like that, especially when I was out west. So
I want to do a powwow. I want to do what is
they're great.
What's the drug that they use? I can't think of it.
Peyote.
Peyote?
Yes, I want to do peyote.
That's a southern thing. Yeah.
I want to see things. I did shrooms once, and I thought I saw stuff, but I don't think I did enough to kind of cross that line over. But I really, really want to do peyote and was it DMT?
DMT. Well, just an hour sweat, you'll be able to see something.
Yeah,
true. I don't like the sweat though.
It's different.
we do a lot of smudging too in our school. Like I smudge every day with the kids, and so
What's smudging?
Yeah, we do. I do a lot of smudging too.
Smudging, sweetgrass, and you take it's like cleansing of the spirit, and so you're taking the smoke from the sweetgrass and you're putting it over your head, and then you're putting it over your eyes.
Oh,
you're like
okay.
your hands, like whatever's sentiment, like whatever, sacred to you, like you're so some people will go all the way through their whole body, go down to their feet. It's
interesting. So like sage, because I know my mom was from the South.
Sage, sweetgrass, like whatever, like one of the
She was from Alabama, so anytime she moved, she would like go through the house, sage the house. Me myself, I hang rosaries. I have rosaries in every room.
We had an elder come in. Actually, no, it was our teacher. She's an Indigenous woman, and she was going through the school, and she literally went to the principal's office, and the sage kind of flared up, and it almost like exploded, like it just kind of like very small firecracker. And she goes, "There's but she had to drop, and she goes, "Oh my God, there's so much negative energy in here," and she was scared to be in that room. So there's a lot of things that happen in that space, like it, and there's obviously it's in the news today. So there's just a lot of things in that, and like historically in that place. So I know one time, just being like a couple of coworkers coming back, and we saw the shadow go through the hallway. There's a long hallway, and there's a glass, and it went through 3 o'clock in the morning, and it just went through, and we're like, who was that? So we went in, and there was nobody there, and we're walking out, and the shadow went back the other, and it was like a shadow, and I'm like, oh, okay, that is creepy. Like, yeah, it was creepy.
The worst experience I've ever had, I was in college. I had my own apartment with a roommate. And for some reason, my closet kept growling at different hours of the night, like an animal in there, but there was nothing in there.
You heard me?
And right. And my roommate and I one day came home, and our back office that was attached to our kitchen, everything was turned upside down. Everything was just on the floor. Desk was flipped over, just turned upside down. And that growling kept happening, and to the point where my roommate and I, our lease was up in a few months, and I was like, I'm not renewing. I'm out. I'm going to move somewhere else. I can't do this. Because it would just freak me out, where I would have to wear headphones at night. So I would have music playing so I wouldn't hear it. It was like almost like a loud growling, gurgling noise coming from my closet of all places.
It was the northern twin. He just could not let go.
Oh, I guess.
I had a creepy shadow once when I was 13. It was right before the big transition to my dad's house even. But it was a very crazy time. Things had been crazy. And I attempted suicide when I was 13. And it was strange, because on one hand it was kind of like I knew not to, but I was going to do it anyways. And then there was this, it wasn't in the closet, it was kind of like in the room but kind of next to the closet area. And it was just like this, you could see it, like it was probably taller than 6 foot something, like it was way bigger than me, but I was 13 and 5'2", so everything was bigger than me at that time. But it was like that same kind of like raspy sound, not a growl, but and it was just like, you come on in, come on in. And I don't know, it was scary enough to make me kind of, well, I won't get graphic and tell you what I was about to do, but it made the process stop, and I'm thankful. But yeah, that was my weird like shadow. The only time I've ever had like some negative, like super compounded negative energy next to me is that, well, other than my parents, but that's, sorry, I'm rambling
No.
again.
No, you're fine,
there's a
Skrika.
lot of layers.
I agree
There's a lot of layers
yeah.
to you, like that. You're a fascinating individual. So
man, energy. Oh.
Well, and that goes back to what Adega said. I mean, I say this all the time. I lived through hell. I know what absolute darkness looks like, and that's why I spend my days loving the kids that nobody really wants to love, helping the parents that are going through their own grieving process, and why I am the way I am. Like, I don't have a thing that says stop giving. I can't. I don't have a thing that says take. Like, I just, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I don't. I have seen so much dark that I don't have a choice but to shine, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You're now attracted to the light and helping others and pushing that energy forward because you've seen what the worst part of it could do to people. So yeah, it absolutely makes sense.
You've helped a lot of people because of it.
So do you guys believe in UFOs?
Oh, UFOs.
Sorry, Squeak. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
We had one of the best, or one of the most famous incidents close to where Gooch and I live. The Falcon Lake incident was here. And
what are you talking about? There was a UFO over a strip club in Vegas last year. How is that not even top tier pest?
Well, at least they know where to go.
Yeah.
I mean, don't trust Vegas for anything.
They just didn't wipe Sniffer's Road down properly. That's just
Yeah, I mean, we've had the disclosure stuff. I don't know if no one seemed to care at all, really, that they're talking about in front of, was it Congress or whatever you guys have down there? Yeah, I mean, I'd like to believe in it. It seems like there's something there that exists, but I have no idea, like, what it would be. I'm not an expert on it, but we do have quite a bit happening up here in that sense, and it would make sense to be because it's pretty, empty in Canada. So why not build a base up here? Nobody would notice.
I think I read at some point that the most alien abductions recorded ever happened were in Alaska, but also Alaska has a high drug issue too, so it
cocaine
correlates with it.
Have you guys heard of a guy named Ingo Swann? He wrote a book. I'm trying to recall the name of it. He was one of the remote viewers for the CIA. Basically, they were used to spy using their minds. And he was taken to Alaska, and in his book, he describes it where there were he was shown an alien ship. It came and was harvesting water and then leaving. And he couldn't explain anything more than that, but he said there is a big connection with Alaska. So maybe there's drugs, maybe there is aliens, there's something about those Alaskan butts where they get probed more often. I don't know.
Maybe there's drugged aliens.
It's lonely.
Maybe both.
I like the theory that they're coming from the ocean, because the whole theory of, we were so big into discovering all aspects of the ocean, but we kind of gave up on it and decided to look to the stars and head to space. Like we're trying to escape something. I'm putting my tinfoil hat on that the ocean has a bunch of creepy stuff, because I don't think we've fully discovered everything in the ocean either, too, as well. So
I'm with you. I mean, I agree, because look at all this. If you just look at the space trash that's out there, we've made our own little barrier. Like, they're not going to come in that way anymore. I agree with you. They're going to come through the oceon,
or they're here already, or they're interdimensional, and they just
we're here already. We're here. You just don't know it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're here. Sorry, slip of the tongue.
I caught that squeak.
I'm going to put up this. So this is an image of the person who witnessed this Falcon Lake incident, and he has actual physical wounds from it.
No.
That weird thing on his stomach. So he's a prospector. It was 1967. He was prospecting for gold in Falcon Lake area here, because there's a ton of quartz up here, and so he's a weekend prospector kind of a dude. And so he was out there and he came upon what he assumed was not a UFO so much as an aircraft of some kind that seemed to be having some trouble. And he approached it, and he could hear voices, two people talking, one high, one low, but he couldn't understand what they were saying. It wasn't English. So he tried talking to them in English, and it kind of got quiet. Then he tried in, he spoke a bunch of, actually, I think Polish, Russian, and something else. And I'll get that page up here, actually. It's kind of one of the more documented ones.
I did this to myself. I can't do aliens. They creep
No?
me the fuck. I'm terrified of them.
So this is near Winnipeg. Yay, go team. So he thought it was a spacecraft of some kind, and he approached it, tried to help them. He was offering to, like, do you guys need a boost or something? I suppose it was hovering in the air. This is what an artist rendering showed the experience to be. He tried speaking to them in multiple languages. They got quiet at that, and he was wearing their welding goggles and gloves because he was chipping away at the granite and quartz, and so he touches the thing and it turns around, and then he gets hit with this thing in the chest and knocked way back, and then he woke up, and he very much regrets ever sharing the story. They did find things in the area that were abnormal, and that would fit sort of what his version of events. And if it was a UFO, he didn't say it was an alien. He never said that. It was just, he couldn't explain what it was. They were never able, there was trace amounts of elements in the area and on his body that weren't indigenous to that area. So they don't know how that could have happened. No one's been able to explain the wound on his stomach. And the wound would come back. So it would heal, then it would come back over time. And he kind of, he was sort of like faced a lot of ridicule about this. He never made money off of this. He tried to sort of keep it quiet, but people were interested because there was physical evidence. And so, yeah, that's the wound, and that's the only, day of evidence that we have ever had of that. And he didn't want to tell the doctors what had happened, but they couldn't explain the injury without his explanation.
At least he got to keep his nipples.
True.
Well, talking of that, I did a write-up on something a couple of years ago. I sent you one image, Zach's, but I don't know if you want to show it.
Okay.
Because you've heard of the cattle mutilations, and you've seen that. Well, there's an area in South America where they're actually doing the same thing on humans. There's evidence that I have images. I sent Zach's one. It's really horrific. But yeah, all the people say, yeah, these are aliens that are doing it. And
I don't fuck with aliens. Nope.
So,
I'm terrified of
they're
them.
Twin aliens?
Nope.
There you go.
I can't even watch aliens in media. I can't even watch Mars attacks. Like, aliens just freak me out. All concepts of, especially the Greys. Those are the types that just, I can't do it. I can't. For some reason, just maybe it's the uncanny valley. Maybe it's just something about them. It creeps me out so much that I just get full panic attacks when I see them.
Okay, so this looks like it reminds me of the bodies that were found around the Dyatlov Pass incident. This is horrific. I don't know if I can show this or not.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to, because there's a lot.
Oh, dude, I'm dying to see it.
Yeah, I'm curious, but no, I won't sleep.
Oh, I never sleep. It's okay.
Fuck it, we're 2.5 hours.
We're doing
2.5 hours in. Yeah, do it. Oh
wow, that's
just like cattle. You have the bloodless injuries, eyes, tongue, lips. The other images, they have the various organs removed. There's children, there's girls, there's this guy here. Yeah.
It looks like they were burnt from the inside out.
Almost, yeah.
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Like I've been in the medical field too for like close to 15 years. And like, you see some burns victims and stuff like that. It doesn't never look like that. And that is weird.
The closest thing that I think could come to that, besides being surgically done, is someone hit by lightning. But having so many people on different occasions struck by lightning in that area, I don't know.
not to be morbid, but his teeth are very nice and white.
No sugar.
Right?
No sugar, no dairy. That's the key.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know if I could do no dairy. I need my cheese.
I think that's enough of that. Probably get canceled
Yeah.
for that. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that hole in the armpit, that was
worth it.
very precise, very like clean circle. Almost like something was stuck in there.
Yeah, it looks like he was like
Drained.
electrocuted from the drained, like electrocuted, or
See,
like
I don't
his-
fuck with aliens, man. I'm
Why?
sorry I brought it up. Sorry
You
I
fuck with
brought it
twins,
up.
but not aliens?
No. No, man. Pass. Let's talk about lizard people. How about that?
How about missing 411?
Which I don't think those are aliens. I think that's actual. I love the theory that the national parks were put together to not protect what was in the parks, but protect people from what was in the parks. And that all these people go missing because you go off trail in these national parks. I wholeheartedly believe these are supernatural, like my husband's gonna hate me for saying this word. If he's listening, he better turn his headphones off. Skinwalkers and stuff like that.
Wendigos,
100%.
Yetis,
100% believe it's those in the missing 411s cases.
I learned there's stuff you're supposed to do and not supposed to do in a national park after I did them.
Oh. Was it twins?
No, unfortunately. I'm a rock collector, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Oh, okay. Good for you.
Yeah, mining for quartz isn't really legal, I think.
Oh, Bigfoot too in there?
Well, yeah, we have
Yeah.
Sasquatches in the chat.
Yeah,
So
That's true.
well, we have Sasquatch here, in Manitoba, apparently, and so
we do?
yeah, the indigenous believe of the Sasquatch a lot, but he's part of the 7 teachings. So,
What Gooch? I'm curious. What about I guess the best example, like fairies, like pixies. Do you guys? Is there something relatable?
that's a
in
European. That's a European tale. Those are European lores. You know,
Okay.
that's like here in because Canada's primarily built by the indigenous were here
Mhm.
first, so a lot of the lore is like based
Is there something
on
comparable, like a small?
no,
creature
it's
like
all
that?
it's all animal. It's all based on animals. Like it's like
Mm.
the beaver, the eagle, the wolf, the Sasquatch, the turtle, buffalo or bison, and I'm missing the loon. Like it's so based on animal because they believe in there's energy and spirit and everything, even if it's like water or rocks. There's energies throughout all of that, and they believe in all that. So
Interesting.
or we believe in all that. So
Yeah, I that goes along with my beliefs too. I believe that that's why I call it the great cosmic yumminess. It's everywhere. It's in,
yeah,
and everything. And like one of the things that my gran would always teach me, and I still do this to this day. Well, you gather when you gather things that are dead. You don't have to do this, but if you ever take from a plant, you have to give back. So
Yeah.
like, like especially if it's a tree or something like that, then you just pluck a hair and you leave it. Okay, I don't. I'm surprised I'm not bald by now, but yeah, it's just habit now. If I take like a stick or something off of a tree, or you like leave a little bit behind.
Yeah, interesting.
This
Well,
is,
the bear and the wolf are the other two.
more grossing you out. So this is another body from the Dyatlov Pass incident. And anyone who knows like any kind of paranormal stuff probably knows about that. But she was found missing her eyes as well. She was frozen solid. So her eyes and her tongue were gone.
Ugh.
9 victims.
So much bad food. My grandmother, when I was born, a tradition she used to do when all her grandkids were born and stuff. I'm sure she did this with her own kids, but she would take a used dirty diaper of ours and like put it in a little bag, and then put it underneath the mat of the entranceway so that anybody coming to see the baby or coming, have any bad intentions, that is like washed away. It's to stop any negativity towards the child. She was a great old lady. She had a lot of supernatural stuff like that.
Something about the eyes, because like I know in like the United Kingdom, when they buried their dead, like I don't know if they even do that anymore. They probably don't, but they used to put the coins on the eyes.
Yep.
And that's weird that body has its eyes taken out. Something about the eyes. They say it's the entranceway to the soul. So
true. And I mean, so it's also the real world stuff would be they're easy to eat. So a bird could come along and have taken the eyes in theory, right? So
but
you have to look at that stuff. I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
And that I love that incident. It's one of my favorite like weird paranormal events because it really, no matter how many times you look into it, it doesn't make any sense at all. How it happened, why it happened, what happened after. It's just like, it's a complete mess. And so it's always fresh because people have a different theory. Okay, maybe it was this, and you can, okay, I'll listen to that. Sure, why not? Podcast away.
Or about the black-eyed kids too.
Kids.
Those are creepy. Those that come to your door in the night and they're asking for help or asking for you to open the door. And when they look up at you, they've got black eyes. They're normally children. Yeah, that's creepy.
That's a real thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Don't let
random... I didn't mean to say...
Don't let random children with black eyes
I've not had it happen, but I've dreamed about kids like that. Like, I have extremely vivid nightmares. I could write stories, I tell you. Creepy stories.
I think Jay gave a lot of kids black eyes growing up, too.
Yeah, you bet.
I suspect. All right. Well, I want to wait for Cameron to come back and see what that phone call was, and if it was a great. Maybe he could give us inside scoop on something with that movie. But my voice is almost completely gone, and I think we should probably just call it a night, guys. Thank you, everyone. Let's go around and see what people are working on. Nadia, who's now a permanent member of the panel, whether she likes it or not.
No, I was kidding.
What are you doing?
I've got Dames and Dorks tomorrow night at 5 p.m. And then Saturday, I have 2 streams. I'll be on Nerdy Neo's chat talking video games in the morning. And then our D&D has our second session. But you can follow me on Twitter, X, and Nerd Dollface. I post where I'm at all the time. And I post probably way too much.
Not enough. No.
Not enough.
Good post.
Okay.
Not enough.
Good post. Yep. Good post. I'll put the link in the chat here. So the links are in the description now. I did add that during the show, but I'll put it in the chat here too. Definitely go and subscribe over there. You're just getting going, but you're gonna be so famous eventually. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna leash off your fame so hard. I can't wait.
That's fine. You're welcome to it. Let's do this.
Thank you, Walt Sam, for subscribing. I also want to thank people because before we go too much further, to wrap it up, my voice is so bad. I got people, Squeaka.
What?
Thank you
What
for
did I do?
the 5 gifted memberships earlier in the show. I didn't forget.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. It's fine.
I was letting Cameron flow. So I got a clip for you.
Enough. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
Gandalf? Not the wandering wizard, per se.
A black-eyed child.
You're muted.
That or your
I'm
voice
muted.
is really gone.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
it's gone.
It's getting there. Pop Culture Minefield is a member now too. Jamalama and Anime Night. And I don't know if any of you are still here, but I appreciate all of you. Maybe you watched the repeat. I know for Gary, it's probably past his bedtime. So I'm going to play Dawn's song because it's just fun.
Beta male, beta, not an alpha male. Beta male, yes. Beta male, beta. You're a beta male, you're a beta male, not an alpha male. Beta, what shame. Mommy's boy.
Leave it on high energy. Adega, what do you do? What's going on with you?
Yes, sir. Oh, you know.
I know. They don't know.
I write books. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the market now. They pretty good. Got stories about publishers that wanted to fight over me and all that good stuff, but people don't read as much as they used to, which is a shame. So if you want to hear it, stuff that I'm editing on, I do every Sunday, or I try to have a chapter from one of my current works. You can hear me read it. So that's what I do. And then I visit every once in a while different places if I like them. You know, you got lucky, Zach. It was a weakness one day where I thought, I feel sorry for him. His voice is gone. And, you know,
it's true.
No, I appreciate you having me on, and this is a great crowd. That's why I hang out with you guys. As much as I like to call you jerks on Saturdays, but this is fun. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. We call ourselves jerks, so you can. It's fine. We love it. Call us jerks. Get involved. Yeah, go subscribe to Adega. So his link is in the description. I will put it on the chat here too. And Jay, you are like unbelievably busy all the time.
I try to be. Yeah, on Diabolical Souls. Had a great show tonight. Had some friends on and talked about their comics, and got a busy month ahead of me. So tomorrow night I'll be doing episode 3. Zach, I think you're going to be there, or if your voice holds up, discussing episode 3 on Arcane. Nadia, you're more than welcome to join one of these nights. I know you're a huge Arcane fan, so
I don't know if it's the same time as Dames and Dorks, but if it's not, we'll talk. Let's talk offline.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll be doing doing that with Andrew, Amateur, Stepenzo, Little Platoon. Who else is going to be on there? If I forget someone, please, I apologize. They'll be doing that tomorrow night, and then Saturday night you can catch me on Saturday Night Hypnosis. And then for the rest of the month, I got some really good guests. I got Chuck Dixon coming on. I have Adam Lawson coming on. I have Jason Bascom. There are tons of comic book creators coming on the show. Having an in-depth conversation with them, so come check us out. And then, of course, I did a shout out to Elon Musk today to come on my channel. So I shot my shot, and so it's funny watching people, retweet it and everything. But the chances are he's never ever even going to look at my way. So I thought it was humorous, but I thought I should
shoot your shot,
take a crack, and
positive energy.
So. Yeah, I'm just having fun with it. And of course, I've been on other channels like Zach's, and thank you so much for having me on your channel on Wednesdays. And then Pre-Kings, you can catch me on there, and Matt Barr's channel. We talk about pop culture and stuff in the comics as well. So, and I'll be, out and about on a whole bunch of other streams. So watch out for the gooch.
Watch out for the gooch indeed. So Jay gets some fantastic guests, and he does these amazing one-on-one interviews, and he's a natural with it. So go subscribe to him, watch his stuff.
Too kind.
They're always good. No, and everyone always says you ask questions no one else asks, and it's true, you do. So it's a fun conversation, and you downplay the people you have on your show, but there's some, you get some enormous people from the comic world and elsewhere on your show.
I appreciate the kind words. Honestly, it's the chat. I love the chat. They are awesome. The chat is always the best. And all of you guys, I actually tweeted out, you guys supporting me and helping, promote my show. It's been unbelievable. I love it. I'm very grateful, and I love all you guys. So thank you so much. So, and I mean that, honestly, I do mean that. So
thanks. Thank you. Oh. Cameron, you're back.
I'm back, guys. So that was the result of the synchronicity. So that famous composer that I mentioned actually called me, and we had a very nice conversation, and hopefully I'll meet up with him. But full circle on synchronicity, so it's all good. So thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I missed 20 minutes here. So apologies for everyone.
Nope, we are actually just wrapping up now.
Cameron,
yes. So do you have an announcement to make about the phone call? We can.
No, not
right
yet.
Now.
No, not yet. Let something happen for real. And then I used to talk about things before they happen and make them go away. So let's let things happen and then talk about them in the past tense.
Do you have anything you can talk about that you're working on besides your books?
Yeah, I mean,
and your Patreon?
No, I've got my books. I've got novels, and when it goes to Amazon.com, and maybe somebody throw in a link to my novels, and I've got 2 novels published, and I've got my Patreon, which I have links to, which I hope some of you will join. But yeah, no, I'm working right now on a project that I cannot talk about, but I'm hoping to be able to talk about in the near future. It's a major historical epic TV series I've been working on for 3 years with a big network, and so far, it has survived everything. It has survived 3 years' journey of development. It survived the strikes last year. A lot of projects at this network were canceled after the strike. A lot of development of new shows they were making was canceled. And I'm just grateful that so far mine hasn't been. And so I'm hoping to be able to announce that series. It's sort of a Game of Thrones type epic series, but historical event that I've been working on for 3 years now, and it was actually 7 years because I wrote the original script 7 years ago, and it took me 4 or 5 years to sell it, and then it's now been 3 years of development with the studio and the network, and thank God, knock on computer laptop here, but it's still running, and I'm hoping to be able to come onto this channel and talk about it and say, because it's been announced in the trades, and then we can talk about it, right? But I've learned the hard way not to talk about things before they are actually gestated and born, because you have a tendency to make them go away by taking the energy out of things in advance.
Right, I can understand that. Be hesitant with that. So I'm going to put your link for Mother of the Believers.
Oh yeah, please. That's my novel. I've got 2 lovely historical novels. That one is on the birth of Islam from the point of view of the Prophet's wife. So it's a woman's perspective on the birth of Islam. And I have a second novel, Shadow of the Swords, which is about the Third Crusade between Richard the Lionheart and Saladin. And it's told again from a woman's perspective, a female spy during the war. So yeah, so I'm the guy who writes all these women's voices, and somehow I've managed to get away with it. I don't know.
Oh, you're good at it. That's why.
I will take it. The most flattering comment I've actually gotten on my novels is I'll get emails from fans that had read my book and just read the book, and they got to the end of the book and they saw like the author's picture at the back of the book, right, kind of thing, and they're like, "Wait a minute, what? Wait, what? This is a guy?" Like they read the entire 600-page novel and they said, because it's written like Mother of the Believers, written from a woman's point of view, the entire novel, right? And they're like, "Wait, what? This is a guy wrote this?" And women will write me like, "I've never seen a guy write a women's perspective this authentically." I'm like, I spent all my time trying to understand you complicated ladies. Right? It's all, we guys are very simple. Women have many layers. And as an artist, I try to get into those layers. So,
yeah. There's a pun I could throw at that, but I'm not going to.
No, I know. I set up the pun.
You did. But let's talk about your Patreon, because it's huge. It's growing. It's a great place to have conversations also. And you're updated constantly, and it's the only thing I'm still a patron of, and I've tried a bunch of them, and it's the best by far. It's not close.
I will take it. So I have a Patreon. It's been on for almost 3 years now, and I'm very proud of it. Just start off with me saying, here's my opinions on Hollywood, which is still primarily what it is, right? So, I've been a working screenwriter for over 20 years, and so I've got a lot of very jaded perspectives on things, like you heard earlier in this, when we started off today's conversation. I gave a very complex strategic analysis of why certain lawsuits and things might be happening and what people are thinking behind the scenes. That's not obvious, I think, to most people. Most people see it on a simple way, and I've worked behind the scenes so far to see that nothing is what it appears to be, because all of Hollywood is based on illusion, right? I mean, that entire industry is based on that. As I had a professor in film school that once said, it's not that appearances matter in Hollywood. That's all that is. That's all that exists. Even movies just appear to move. They're just photographs on a reel, right? They don't actually move, right? It's the appearance of movement, right? None of it's real. And so the whole thing's managing appearances. And I think a lot of people have been frustrated in the last several years where Hollywood appears to have lost its mind, and in many levels it had. They think it can never get better. And I think a lot of the things that are happening in the industry are trying to get back to profitability, while at the same time paying lip service to some of the political issues that we had over the past few years that kind of derailed good storytelling. So people are very confused. They're like, you'll have these movie studios like Disney paying lip service to all the woke stuff, right? And yet, you got somebody like Jon Favreau trying to return Star Wars to a better position. So they don't know what to believe, because people generally, understandably, believe what people say. and Hollywood, they say these things, but you have to see what they do and what they're doing behind closed doors. So my Patreon really analyzes those. That's just, events will happen like to Gina Carano's lawsuit, and I can give my several decades of experience of these kinds of situations. I can give experience that I've faced with in legal situations. I'm a former lawyer myself, right? So that in and of itself is the primary purpose of the Patreon. But over the course of the last few years, I've also, because of the nature of the Patreon, I've gotten several insiders, people that decided we like this guy, we kind of trust this guy. And so people inside of Disney corporate, people inside of Lucasfilm, I've got some new people inside of Marvel who decided that we're going to leak information to you. And a lot of the information is startling to people because it doesn't fit the official narrative of things. And it doesn't fit the narrative that a lot of YouTubers have invested their brand on of how things are going. If you guys remember 9 months ago, everyone on YouTube was saying Jon Favreau had quit the Lucasfilm. Remember that? Everybody was saying it. Yeah. It was the standard narrative. And I was like on my Patreon, even before I had any information, I was like, well, why would he do that? I mean, just looking at his position, he's got 3 seasons of Mandalorian, some of them are more successful than others, but he's working and he's getting stuff done. And, and Kathleen Kennedy doesn't look like she's in a great position after Indiana Jones. It's a disaster. That movie was a financial failure. So why would Kathleen Kennedy at that moment be more powerful than him and his power be going down? But that was the official narrative, that she had, off of her failing Indiana Jones movie, she had so much power that she forced him out. And everyone was saying this. And I would say, no, I don't think that makes any sense. And then my insiders in Lucasfilm like, what are people talking about? John's got his he's in the office every day. He's got his parking spot. What do you mean he's quit? I mean, people are like, this isn't true. But nobody believed me because it became the official narrative of YouTube. The big channels, everybody said it. And like, well, Cameron, he's a liar. He probably never worked on Hollywood. Like, all right, that's so nobody believed me. Yeah, nobody believed me. And so I was like, all right. And then suddenly, and nobody believed me until January 6th of this year when Jon Favreau suddenly out of nowhere announced he's doing a Mandalorian movie. Well, I was like, didn't this dude quit 8 months ago? I mean, what? I mean, what's wrong with you guys, right? But that became the official narrative and nobody on YouTube wanted to question. That's why a lot of the big YouTubers don't want me on their channels anymore, because I say that's not making sense. And that's not the narrative they want to go with, even if the narrative is made up. And so I'm like, down to very good channels like you, Zach. We're good, decent people who are willing to hear other perspectives, even if you don't always agree with me. So you've got all these lovely things. My book's there, got my Patreon. So come join me on the Patreon and hope to be back on, because you fulfilled your promise. You had lovely ladies on today.
I did. Always. Thanks for coming on, Cameron. I always appreciate having you on, and big fan of your Patreon. And I think you can join for, I think there's a join for free or trial option.
Well, I mean, there is a free, Patreon created this like free tier, because the lowest tier is like a $5 tier. You just come in, you get almost everything from $5, which I think most people can afford, right? Just to tell you what the tier is. So the free tier is, whatever I feel like putting out for free, which is I put out a notice today that everyone should come to Zach's channel.
Nice.
Because I wanted
I appreciate that.
Everyone who, I don't think you need to pay $5 to know I'm coming on a good channel like this, right? But then when you get my analysis of what's happening with Gina Carano, that's for pretty much the paid members, right? And then the higher levels are, at the $10 level, people can get, I do regular Q&As. So people send me their questions and I do like Q&A where I can explain their how Hollywood works stuff. Those are very popular. Then at the $20 level, I've been pre-releasing my third novel. My third novel's written, and every month I put out a new chapter of that novel. So the $20 level members, and people are actually enjoying this novel. They're reading it I've got 30 chapters of it already out. It's like 75 chapter novel. So I put that out. Then the higher levels, at the $50 level, you get all that. Plus you get to talk to me every month for half an hour and ask me direct questions on a Zoom call about Hollywood, about anything I'm hearing, give you advice on your writing. And at the $100, and there are people that pay $100. I'll do a full 1 hour call. And I've got a lot of people there who are just like, can you give me advice on my screenplay? Right. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so those are the tiers, and people seem to be happy with it. I'm still around doing it. Yeah.
Awesome. Squeaka. Eventually, you're going to have something on your channel.
I mean, I have 64 subs. I should do something, I guess.
You should.
I have 100 sub stream when I get there. Since there's no content, that's what I'm going to do. That's it. Just when I get to 100, I'll have a stream, and then that's it. Wait for the next one. That's just, yeah. I don't know. I'm not the streaming type, I guess.
You're
thanks for
awesome,
having me.
Squeaka. Thanks for being here and sharing.
And you shared great stories. We loved hearing those stories. They were very personal. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm always terrified of these things. I'll be honest, because I'm totally terrified that people are secretly judging me. So, I mean.
All right. Here's a little clue. Here's a clue. Here's a little thing I've learned as an old guy, right? I mean, up here old. I'm a little bit old. Okay, so here's something I learned the hard way. When I was like a young dude, I thought I was, I was obsessed with like, what is everyone thinking of me? I was afraid of it, sort of like what you are. So I'm guessing, Squeaker, you're kind of young. And then sort of I got older and I said, screw you. I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And then I got to the third level and realized nobody's thinking about me at all.
It's not like in that way. It's more, I don't care if people love me or hate me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's more, I can't do things for people. It's weird. It's not a I need to be accepted. It's a I want to be able to continue to help people kind of accept. And it's like I said, it's not I mean, I don't care if the whole world hates me. I'm going to do what I do. Like, that's not the problem. It's more in this day and age, if you say something like, I'm not a practicing Christian anymore. They're like, oh my God, you don't believe in Jesus. That's it. I can't talk to you. And it's like, well, there's just so much closed-mindedness and stuff. And I get a lot too. If you tell people, like, I grew up with the South Side of hell, like, they're like, oh my God, she has childhood trauma. She must be psycho. And I'm like, well, I'm a good kind of psycho, So it's that kind of weird. It's just the way the world is right now, kind of judging. But thanks again for having me on, Sax. I feel special when I get to come on your channel. I feel famous.
I feel lucky to have you here, so thank you, Squeaka.
Sax is always my favorite, my number one.
How was your first?
You're my first
subscriber.
Yes.
True story. Hey, Lisa. Thanks for coming. We are going to wrap it
up.
I
love you, Lisa.
Lisa.
And it was great to hang out with Jay and everybody else too. Sorry, didn't mean to single you out, Sax.
No, that's all good. We all good. We're all Zach's adjacent. It's all good.
Even though Nadia left me already.
She did. Yeah.
She gave up.
5 a.m. She says.
But thanks, Jay. Thanks, Cameron. Thanks, Sadega.
Always.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to play us out something different this time because it's Gina. We're play us out with the Gina countdown. So have a great week, and thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for all the subscribers, members. You guys rule, and I will see you on Saturday night on Circle of Jerks.